Chapter 2757. Just then Xiaoping stopped hiding as well. His figure flashed and he walked out of the void, appearing in front of the remaining 3 primordial fiendish demons. What? Initially, the 3 primordial fiendish demons were on guard against each other. They were panting heavily, guarding against any sneak attacks. But now that another fiendish demon had appeared, they were truly shocked. But when they saw Xiaoping's figure, their pupils constricted as they recognized Xiaoping's identity immediately. Flower Demon Austin. The 3 primordial fiendish demons glared at Xiaoping and gritted their teeth. Their voices were filled with endless hatred. If not for this lad, they would have been an extremely united group. But after meeting this lad, just because he handed over a pile of god stones, it caused their small group to have an internal strife, killing each other endlessly. By now, most of the primordial fiendish demons around them had died, leaving only the 3 of them. If not for this Flower Demon Austin, they wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. In fact, they could vaguely sense that something was amiss. It's been hard on you guys to experiment for such a long time. I'll send you guys back to the abyss in a while. Don't worry, it'll be quick. It'll just take an instant. Xiaoping looked at the 3 primordial fiendish demons calmly. It's you? It's really you, you bastard. Damned Flower Demon Austin, what did you do to us earlier on? One of the primordial fiendish demons hollered. He wasn't a fool either. After all, no matter how greedy they were, there was a limit. If they were to suffer a certain loss, they would regain their rationality and choose to stop. But that wasn't the case earlier on. They didn't stop even after killing each other. If not for the fact that they were affected by the enemy's sorcery, this wouldn't have happened. It doesn't matter what you did. What's important is that you guys no longer have the right to speak loudly in front of me. Xiaoping said. You ant-like flower demon, do you think that we can't kill you just because we're injured? What a joke. Even if I'm severely injured, it's still a piece of cake for me to crush a puny flower demon like you. One of the primordial fiendish demons hollered. With a boom, it burst out from where it was and blasted a punch towards Xiaoping. It was as if the boundless destructive power of a world had erupted from its body. Its fist also covered a world domain, crushing over and shattering the vacuum. Even though it was heavily injured, it was still an immemorial demon that understood the laws of the world. The power it could unleash was no small matter. It was not something an immortal demon could compare to. Sometimes an injured beast was even scarier. However, they weren't facing undying demons, but rather saints who had already reached the peak of the ancient times. Even if they were at their peak, Xiaoping could still beat them to death. Not to mention the severely injured primordial fiendish demons that only had a few of them left. Dong. Xiaoping stood where he was and gently stretched out his right hand. In an instant, he pinched the primordial demon's fist. It was as though all the strength was swallowed up by his palm, and all the strength turned into nothingness. How is this possible? The primordial fiendish demon's eyes widened in disbelief. After all, it was an immemorial fiendish demon. Even if it was a heavily injured attack, it should be able to easily shatter the body of an immortal demon. However, Austin, the flower demon, had easily blocked its fist that contained the laws of the world. It had never encountered such a thing before. Nothing is impossible. Who told you that I'm an immortal demon? Xiaoping gently clenched his fist. Boundless dermic powers erupted from his body, forming a terrifying domain. In an instant, the primordial fiendish demon's body was wrapped up, forming a sphere and compressing it inwards. Boom. In the next second, the primordial fiendish demon did not even have the chance to scream. In an instant, it was smashed into a ball of flesh and blood. Even its soul was crushed into bits. With just a gentle shake, the primordial fiendish demon exploded like a watermelon. At this moment, the surging dermic powers in Xiaoping's body could be said to be boundless. It was no longer something an ordinary primordial fiendish demon could compare with. He was probably infinitely close to a demigod expert. Just by using the boundless dermic powers in his body, he could easily crush an primordial fiendish demon. Flower Demon Austin, you're not an immortal demon. The remaining 2 primordial fiendish demons narrowed their eyes and let out a sharp glint. Instantly, they came to their senses. At this moment, they could clearly tell that this flower demon, Austin, was not an immortal demon. The strength of this lad was far beyond their imagination. If this wasn't the case, how could their companion be crushed so easily? Based on their senses, this lad should have at least reached the immemorial ancient state or even the immemorial ancient state. Despicable fella. To think that you would hide your strength. What are you plotting? What are you trying to do? Shameless flower demon. How dare you commit such despicable acts? pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Do you still have any dignity as a demon? The two primordial fiendish demons could not believe that the flower demon, Austin, was already a match for them. This was just like a rabbit suddenly growing into an elephant. Even now they could not accept this fact. If they had known of this earlier, they would definitely have joined forces to kill this lad. It wouldn't be too late to split the spoils after that. But it was a pity that they had suffered countless casualties from their internal strife. Not only that, they were severely injured as well. They no longer had the strength to deal with this flower demon, Austin. Dignity? Strength is the true dignity of a demon. Do you guys know why you lost? It's because of your arrogance. Xiaoping looked at the two primordial fiendish demons calmly. A horrifying power of creation shrouded the void in all directions. It was as though the realm of creation was binding these two primordial fiendish demons. The omnipresent power of creation was changing the physical world and permeating through the void. Run! Instantly, the hairs on the two primordial fiendish demons stood up. They could feel a lethal killing intent. They exchanged glances and split off in two directions trying to escape. But the moment they made their move, Xiaoping struck out. Fast as lightning, he punched out with a fist that contained a boundless amount of power that could break through the void. Bam! At this moment, the bodies of the two primordial fiendish demons exploded with a single punch from Xiaoping. Their bodies were like watermelons that were smashed into smithereens. Their flesh and blood scattered all over the ground as though they were worthless. The dozens of god stones that they had snatched away earlier on fell onto the ground and returned to Xiaoping's hands once more. At this moment, all 15 primordial fiendish demons had died tragically in this place. Not a single one of them could leave this place alive. Xing xing xing. Xiaoping waved his hand and scooped up the flesh and blood of these primordial fiendish demons for the world tree to devour. Chapter 2758. Come out. At this moment, Xiaoping glanced sideways and spoke to an empty space in the distance. He had already seen the demons hiding in the depths of the void there. However, they did not attack him, so he could not be bothered. Now that he had dealt with the primordial fiendish demons, he needed to deal with the surrounding witnesses. After all, he could not reveal his strength for the time being and let the other abyssal demons know. Still not coming out? Do you think your concealment ability is strong enough, or do you think I'm bluffing? Xiaoping raised his eyebrows and punched the void. Boom. This punch was extremely terrifying and contained the power of creation. It instantly changed the laws of space and time in the surroundings. The void in front of him shattered like glass and completely shattered. With a crack, 3 or 4 figures appeared in the distance. Xiaoping also recognized the abyssal demons. They were the dark spider demon Catherine, the white-faced fox demon, the succubus, the scarlet scorpion demon, and the other abyssal demonesses. He did not know when they had gathered together, but they had actually come to his side. Austin, you actually discovered our whereabouts? Catherine, the dark spider demon, was taken aback. She looked at Xiaoping in disbelief. According to her understanding, flower demon Austin shouldn't have such strength. However, this was not the case. Not only had he killed 3 primordial fiendish demons with one punch, but he had also used schemes and strange abilities to kill the other 12 primordial fiendish demons. He could even easily discover their existence. One had to know that she was the dark spider demon Catherine. She was born with the mystique of the darkness realm and could easily merge her body and aura into the depths of the void. Once she used the darkness realm and merged into the abyssal void, even an abyssal king would find it difficult to discover her traces. However, the flower demon Austin had easily discovered her. It seemed that her darkness realm could not hide from him at all. She felt that Austin had completely changed. He was completely different from the Austin that she knew. It was as if he was a different demon. Of course I found out. No abyssal demon can hide from me. Xiaoping stood with his hands behind his back and said matter-of-factly, Austin, when did you become so powerful? 15 immemorial fiendish demons were fooled by you and died so easily. This is definitely not the strength of an ordinary flower demon. Just when did you obtain such powerful strength, or were you hiding it from all the fiendish demons? Are you really this powerful? The white-faced fox fiend was extremely curious. From what she knew, flower demon Austin shouldn't have such power. He was just a pretty boy, a weak little fiendish demon that people loved. But now it was completely different. His body exuded an unprecedentedly powerful abyssal devil chi. He had the demeanor of a king, and he was not the slightest bit inferior to the abyssal kings. This kind of domineering and arrogant aura also made her heart beat endlessly. It had an extraordinary charm. No, he shouldn't be the flower devil Austin. He should be another demon from the abyss. Who are you? Why are you pretending to be the Flower Devil Austin? Where did the real Flower Devil Austin go? The succubus narrowed her eyes and stared at Xia Ping. She began to doubt Xia Ping's true identity, because in her memories the real Flower Devil Austin definitely did not have such strength. Therefore the only explanation was that this was a fake Flower Devil Austin. Interesting. If he's fake, how did he hide from the soul inspection of the Devil Demon Palace? Even an Abyssal King can't hide from such inspection. The Scarlet Scorpion Demon stared at Xia Ping curiously. What a bunch of troublesome women. I didn't want to do anything to you at first, but I didn't expect all of you to be so smart. Don't you know that curiosity killed the cat? Xia Ping looked at the group of Abyssal Demonesses helplessly. Interesting. Does Austin want to fight us? This is really interesting. I never thought that Austin would dare to have such thoughts. Don't tell me you think we're the same as those trash from before? Do you want to use your little tricks against us? Let me tell you it's useless. Austin, it doesn't matter if you're the real Austin or a fake Austin. If I don't teach you a lesson you won't know who the boss of the abyss is. Hearing this, the dark spider demon Catherine and the other abyssal demonesses immediately laughed. They did not think that Flower Devil Austin was a match for them. Even if he had hidden his strength, it was still impossible for him to defeat them. Moreover, the reason why Austin was able to win previously was purely because he used schemes and tricks. If he had not used tricks to cause the 15 primordial fiendish demons to kill each other, causing them to kill themselves and the remaining 3 to be seriously injured, Austin would definitely not have won. In a head-on battle, they did not think that Flower Devil Austin had any chance of winning. Women, you're too arrogant. Xia Ping looked at the group of abyssal demonesses calmly. Boom. In an instant, a huge illusory power exploded from his body. He used the power of the true insight of illusion. One illusory world after another condensed and instantly enveloped the abyssal demonesses. Moreover, the casting speed of the illusory art was far faster than other spells. It could be done with just a thought. This speed was even faster than the speed of light. What? The dark spider demon Catherine and the other abyssal demonesses were shocked. They instantly felt a huge illusory power seeping into their souls. It seemed like it wanted to pull them into the illusory world and sink them completely. Funny Austin. You think you can deal with us with mere illusory power? You're underestimating us. The dark spider demon Catherine sneered. She immediately wanted to use abyssal power in an attempt to shatter the illusory world and break free from it. But this was just the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 20 illusory worlds crushed down at the same time. In an instant, the dark spider demon Catherine was completely sealed. As for the other abyssal demonesses such as the white-faced fox demon, succubus demon, scarlet scorpion demon, and so on, they were easily suppressed and sealed by just 18, 17, or 15 illusory worlds. They were instantly dumbfounded. They could not move at all. Their surroundings were sealed by countless illusory runes. They could not use any abyssal power in their bodies. They fell into a deep sleep and could not discover what was happening in the outside world. Interesting. Just 20 illusory worlds and they can't resist it? Xia Ping stood with his hands behind his back. He looked calmly at the dark spider demon Catherine and the other abyssal demonesses who had fallen into the illusory world. Chapter 2759. One should know that Xia Ping's power of illusion had reached a new realm. With a single thought he could cast up to 100 illusory worlds. This was equivalent to 100 layers of illusory seals. If he used his full power, 100 illusory worlds would stack up at the same time and seal layer by layer. Even a demon that had just entered the demigod realm would faint for a moment, let alone other abyssal demons of other levels. 4 abyssal demons below the immemorial ancient realm, 1 illusory world would be enough to make them sink into oblivion for eternity. As for the dark spider demon Catherine and the other demonesses, the fact that they could withstand 20 illusory world seals was enough to prove that they were indeed very strong and far surpassed other abyssal demons. If not for that, they definitely wouldn't be able to withstand such a powerful illusory power. But even so, they were completely sealed by Xia Ping. If Xia Ping wasn't willing, they probably wouldn't be able to walk out of the illusory world even after billions of years. If someone used their consciousness power, they would be able to sense that there were 10 to 20 layers of illusory seals in the depths of their consciousness. Each layer of illusory seals was an illusory world. Such illusory worlds were layered on top of one another. It was extremely complicated and formed a cycle. The power of illusion is really powerful. Xia Ping was filled with emotions. Just now he was just testing his skills. To think that he could easily seal these demonesses who had reached the pinnacle of the immemorial ancient realm. If he were to use other martial path mystiques, he would probably need to use his fists and legs. But the power of illusion was different. Whether it succeeded or not depended on a single thought. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the victor would be decided. If he could block it, he would live. If he couldn't, he would die. This was an extremely fast and efficient mystique. Of course, at the same time, the risk was extremely high. If he couldn't control the other party, he would probably be devoured. Luckily, Xiaoping wasn't a pure illusionist. In fact, he was still a martial artist. If illusions didn't work, he could still use his fists to fight. This was much better than ordinary illusionists. This bunch of demonesses is really troublesome. It doesn't seem good to kill them. Forget it, I'll capture them all and bring them back to the classic of mountains and seas world as coolies. This is the price you have to pay for being too curious. Xiaoping stroked his chin and waved his hand. With a swoosh, he instantly captured the dark spider demon Catherine and the other demonesses and imprisoned them in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. In this way, there were no other witnesses around, and his identity could be kept a secret for the time being. Whoosh. After doing this, Xiaoping's figure flashed and he quickly left the battlefield. After all, with so many primordial fiendish demons fighting here, the destruction caused would definitely attract the attention of other primordial fiendish demons. If he continued to stay in this place, he was afraid that he would be discovered by other primordial fiendish demons that were rushing over. He did not want to meet other primordial fiendish demons for now. No matter what, his biggest goal at the moment was to explore the secrets of the abyss world, not to destroy these primordial fiendish demons. Of course, if this group of primordial fiendish demons didn't have any eyes, it wouldn't be a problem for them to kill them along the way. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoping's figure quickly disappeared from this place. Not long after Xiaoping left this place, dozens of primordial fiendish demons immediately flew over from afar. They had all sensed the fluctuations of the battle here and rushed over curiously to see what was going on. Indeed, there was a battle between 15 primordial fiendish demons here, and it was extremely tragic. It was the kind that would not stop until one of them died. A hound primordial fiendish demon's nose twitched slightly as it smelled the scent that filled the depths of the void. It seemed as though it could sense countless things that had happened in the past just by smelling it. What exactly caused such a tragic battle between them? Could it be to snatch treasures? A fiendish demon asked. That's right. They seem to be fighting amongst themselves for the divine stones obtained in this place. The hound primordial fiendish demon said in a low voice. I see. Many primordial fiendish demons nodded. Although they were currently living in the abyss continent that was filled with order, as fiendish demons, their aggressive blood had not disappeared. Once they broke away from order, they would fight in a frenzy. Killing each other for the sake of treasures? That was really too child's play. Before the demon lord appeared, such things happened every day in the abyss world. In that case, who is the winner? A fiendish demon asked. There's no winner. They're all dead. The hound primordial fiendish demon said. What? All the primordial fiendish demons present were taken aback. This was a little strange. Even if they were fighting for treasures, there should be a winner. Not only was there no winner, but the corpses of the 15 primordial fiendish demons had also disappeared. It seems like there's a third fiendish demon that's reaping the benefits. A primordial fiendish demon said thoughtfully. There's indeed a third fiendish demon. Moreover, it's extremely cunning. I can't sense any aura from it, so I can't tell its identity. The hound primordial fiendish demon shook its head, indicating that even with its bloodline mystique, it couldn't figure out its identity. That fiendish demon that was reaping the benefits was simply too cunning. There might even be a fourth fiendish demon. The hound primordial fiendish demon added. It could also sense the aura of the dark spider demon, Catherine, and the other female fiendish demons. However, it was just a little and it couldn't confirm their identities. It's just a few divine stones, yet they're causing so many factions to fight each other to the death. This is a muddy water, let's not get involved. Since that's the case, let's go. There's no need to continue staying here. A primordial fiendish demon spoke. He seemed to be the leader of this group of primordial fiendish demons. All right. The other primordial fiendish demons nodded because this was a very normal thing in the Forbidden Abyss. This was a competition in the Forbidden Abyss, and there was no prohibition against killing each other. If he died in this place, he wouldn't be held accountable. Instead, it was a matter of course. Moreover, a dead immemorial fiendish demon was of no value to them. They did not know the other party and were not familiar with those immemorial fiendish demons. There was no need to take revenge for such an unfamiliar immemorial fiendish demon. Of course, if they could find the primordial fiendish demon that had profited from the fight, they might even make a move to snatch the treasures of the primordial fiendish demon and eliminate the other party from the forbidden abyss. However, they couldn't even find the other party's identity or aura, so there was no need for them to stay here any longer. After all, the most important thing in entering the forbidden abyss was to find the treasures inside. They didn't have much time to waste here. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With that, these abyssal fiendish demons rapidly left this place. Sogu website. Chapter 2760. In a secluded mountain in the forbidden abyss. Xia Ping was currently hiding in this place. He had entered the world of the classic of mountains and seas, and was temporarily cultivating in seclusion. Although the grand competition of the forbidden abyss had only been going on for 3 months, he had not entered the grand competition of the forbidden abyss to get a high ranking. He only wanted to explore the secrets of the abyss. Therefore, he did not need to be like the other abyssal demons who risked their lives to plunder treasures everywhere just to improve their ranking. Moreover, if he wanted to discover more secrets, he would probably need more power. Therefore, after obtaining these god stones, Xia Ping wanted to use them to increase his own power. Boom. Xia Ping sat cross-legged on the ground. With his body as the center, a domineering domain of creation spread out in all directions. It was filled with the laws of space, time, and creation. The power of many laws constantly circulated in the domain, constantly producing a domineering power of creation that changed the physical world. God stones? Without another word, Xia Ping immediately used his magic power to refine the god stones. Immediately, the god stones were incinerated by the crucible of hell. They quickly turned into majestic energy that surged into his body and into every cell. Whoosh. In an instant, after obtaining the power of the god stones, his cultivation rose at a geometrical rate. It was as if every cell was filled with majestic magic power. Most importantly, the creation domain on his body had also begun to undergo a series of transformations. The laws of space, time, and creation continued to revolve. Vaguely, they seemed to create a huge crystal wall, causing the domain of creation to form a spatial barrier. These spatial crystal walls were the precondition for the birth of the laws of the world. It was as if at this moment, Xia Ping's domain of creation had begun to transform into a domain of the world, condensing the laws of the world. If he really succeeded in condensing the laws of the world and stepped into the Archean realm, then Xia Ping's strength would immediately undergo earth-shattering changes. His power would also increase by thousands of times. At that time, every inch of his flesh and every cell would evolve into a miniature world, and his body would be tempered to an extremely powerful level. At this level, every single cell in his body would be a miniature world. If he were to activate it with all his might, the magic power of billions of worlds would explode at the same time. The power of the explosion could be imagined. In fact, this was the terror of an Archean saint who had comprehended the laws of the world. A saint of this realm was much, much stronger than a creation saint. Just the changes that happened to their bodies and the amount of magic power they could store were far beyond what a creator saint could compare to. Of course, ancient sages didn't just have powers that far surpassed ancient sages. Most importantly, they had condensed the laws of the world, so they had the power of the world. If he used his own world force to power the Saint Artifact, he would be able to unleash 70% to 80% of the Saint Artifact's battle prowess. The destructive power that could be unleashed was no laughing matter. In fact, if a Supreme Saint Artifact were to be powered by the power of the world, the might that it could exert would far surpass that of the ancient sages. If Xia Ping advanced to the primordial realm and condensed the power of a world, his peerless sacred artifacts, the classic of mountains and seas, the formless palace, and the primordial heavenly dragon talisman would be able to exhibit strength several times stronger than before. In fact, when he was using the god weapons, he would be able to use them with even greater ease. This was a qualitative change and improvement. To begin with, Xia Ping had already advanced to the immemorial ancient full cultivation state and had comprehended the laws of creation completely. The foundation of his body was extremely sturdy, and he already had the foundation to advance to the primordial realm. I'll give it a try to advance to the primordial realm then. Xia Ping's eyes shone with a glint. In truth, he really wanted to advance to the primordial realm right now so that his creation territory could metamorphose into a world territory and condense the laws of the world. If he were to condense the laws of the world and deploy the world territory, every single move he made would be filled with the terrifying power of the world. A single punch would be enough to destroy a large world in an instant. More importantly, when the world territory shrouded down, he could suppress other sages with ease, trapping them within his own large world. Even if he were to use 100% of his strength, under the suppression of the world territory, he would only be left with 50%. Therefore the outcome was as one could imagine. Under the power of the world territory, the sages who had condensed the laws of the world were practically undefeatable. Of course, the power of the world was also much stronger than the power of creation. It could crush the power of creation with ease. The difference between the two was like cotton and steel. They could not be mentioned in the same breath. Basically, without the support of an extremely powerful saint weapon, it was impossible for the ancient sages to win against the primordial sages. They would definitely be killed instantly by the primordial sages. After all, a freak of the world like Xiaoping was a monster that would not appear even once in a trillion epochs. He would not appear in the universe so casually and simply. Most of the ancient sages could only flee when they encountered the primordial sages, not daring to fight back at all. Let's begin. At this moment, Xiaoping circulated the creation territory on his body and sat within it. It was as if he was a pillar that held up the heavens, supporting the world. Boom. In an instant, the entire creation territory shook violently and buzzed. It was as if it was vibrating at a rate of trillions of times. Countless laws began to circulate wildly. Space laws, time laws, creation laws, undying chi, and all sorts of other powers entangled together, forming a whirlpool. It was as if there were trillions of changes in the void laws. It was filled with endless mysteries of the laws, symbolizing the laws of everything in the universe. As the laws of the creation territory began to circulate, the massive amount of origin energy within his body began to be consumed rapidly. It was as if it was disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Every time Xiaoping circulated the laws on his body, the amount of origin energy consumed was staggering. This amount of energy was enough to support the operation of a large world for several years. It could be said that the amount of energy consumed each time it circulated was astronomical. It was a little like a space battleship. Just by activating it once, the amount of money consumed was unimaginable. If it wasn't a universe kingdom, it would be hard for them to withstand such consumption. It was the same logic. The amount of origin energy needed to advance from the immemorial ancient realm to the immemorial ancient realm was simply unimaginable. In reality, even if one were to attempt to break through to the immemorial ancient realm, the amount of origin energy needed was astronomical. Therefore, ordinary immemorial sages would basically not attempt to break through to the immemorial ancient realm casually. It was because they couldn't afford it at all. Only when they were fully prepared would they choose to attempt to break through to the immemorial ancient realm. They would then gather the laws of the world and transform their creation territory into the world territory. Chapter 2761. However, this kind of thing was actually understandable. Try to imagine this. An immemorial ancient full cultivation state expert had to cultivate for billions of eras before he could accumulate enough source energy of the universe. However, after a few rounds of impact, the source energy would be depleted cleanly and turned into nothingness. Moreover, these attempts might not necessarily succeed. If he wanted to continue accumulating enough origin energy, it would probably take the ancient sages billions of years to accumulate it. The amount of time needed was not something a mortal could imagine. Even though the ancient sages had an endless lifespan, it was still difficult for them to endure such a loss of time. In fact, as one tried to break through again and again, the probability of breaking through would become lower and lower, and the bottleneck would become more and more terrifying, making it difficult to break through to the Archean realm. Therefore, every time the ancient sages attempted to break through to the archaic realm, they had to be extremely cautious. If they didn't have absolute confidence, they would choose to continue cultivating and solidify their foundations. However, Xiaoping was different. First of all, he was very rich. From this time's forbidden area of the abyss, he had obtained 20 to 30 divine stones. Each of the divine stones contained an astonishing amount of origin energy, which far exceeded the medicinal power of ordinary sacred medicines. Moreover, he also had many world fruits condensed from the world tree. Each world fruit was filled with majestic energy and a large number of world law fragments. The amount of origin energy contained in a world fruit would probably take an ancient saint billions of years to accumulate. This was a huge difference. With this majestic energy, Xiaoping had the capital to squander as he pleased. He did not need to be as stingy as other sages who needed a long time to try once. This was just like how a rich person did business. With hundreds of millions of dollars, they could squander it at will. Even if one business failed and they lost millions, they could continue doing 10 more businesses until they succeeded. Once he succeeded, he would be able to make up for all his previous losses. However, it was different for the poor. If such a business failed even once, it would be beyond redemption. It It was unknown how long it would take to complete the original accumulation. This is the difference between the rich and the poor. The laws of space, the laws of time, the laws of creation, the aura of agelessness. Xiaoping circulated the magic power in his body. At that moment, he had an inexplicable realization in the depths of his sea of consciousness. The law of space established the foundation of the world's spatial barrier, forming the outer shell of the world, turning into a crystal wall that enveloped the surroundings. The law of time allowed this world to be divided into the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, giving rise to many changes. The law of creation created endless matter, giving birth to mountains, rivers, deserts, and valleys, forming the material world. The undying energy formed the air, bringing life to all things in this world, formlessly flowing about. All of this formed a complete world. Crash, the creation domain in Xiaoping's body seemed to have turned into a chaotic state. It constantly revolved and condensed. At this moment, the laws of time, space, creation, and other laws seemed to be condensing into one and started to give birth. Within the creation domain, there seemed to be a giant sun furnace. Boundless flames burned, as though it was refining the entire creation domain and removing impurities. Vaguely, he sensed that his creation domain seemed to have formed many crystal walls around it, enveloping the domain in all directions. It seemed to have formed a firm world. This was originally an illusory domain of creation, but at this moment, under the operation of countless laws, it gradually turned from illusory to reality, forming the embryonic form of a world. It was like a house with a foundation, walls, and a roof. This was a rough house, but it was many times better than the previous one. But even so, he had not advanced to the archaic realm, so he could not condense the laws of the world. However, under such an impact, the 30 divine stones that he had obtained this time were all used up. Not a single drop of energy was left. One had to know that the energy of a divine stone was unbelievably huge. It was enough for an ancient sage to break through to the archaic realm, and 30 divine stones were enough for him to break through 30 times. But Xiaoping was different. Just one attempt had used up the energy of 30 divine stones. One could imagine that his consumption of origin energy was not something other sages could compare to. Originally, Xiaoping had wanted to try breaking through again, wanting to completely condense the laws of the world and step into the archaic realm. But no matter how much he revolved his magic power, he could not condense the laws of the world. He was clearly only one step away, but this step was like a natural chasm that he could not cross. Looks like I'm still lacking something. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He knew that he had broken through to the archaic realm and condensed the laws of the world not because he had not accumulated enough, nor was it because he had not prepared enough origin energy, but because he was lacking something, a crucial factor which caused him to fail to break through to the archaic realm. This also caused him to temporarily be unable to condense the laws of the world. Indeed, now that I've reached the archaic realm, condensing the laws of the world and forming the realm of the world isn't that simple. Xiaoping rubbed his chin. To be honest, he had expected this to happen. After all, he had only reached the full cultivation of the archaic realm for a short period of time. He was most likely still lacking some understanding of the laws of the world. This also caused him to not have a deep understanding of the laws of the world. That was why he had failed this time around. But this also proved that it was not that easy to break through to the archaic realm. If it were that easy, then the streets would be filled with archaic sages, and there wouldn't be so many ancient sages in the universe who were stuck at this realm, unable to break through even after billions of eras. But even so, he still had no way of breaking through to the archaic realm. But after this round of tempering, he had a deeper understanding of the laws of the world, which provided him with experience for his next breakthrough. Moreover, this round of tempering had caused his realm of creation to solidify completely. His cultivation base had increased once again, and his powers and bloodline mystic skills had all improved tremendously. Vaguely, the crystallization of every single cell in his body seemed to have become stronger. His internal space had also expanded and he could store more powers. If one had to describe Xiaoping's current cultivation realm, it would probably be half a step into the archaic realm. While he had not fully comprehended the laws of the world, he had at least reached a sliver of the embryonic form of the world. If Xiaoping were to suddenly have such an opportunity to break through, then stepping into the archaic realm and condensing the laws of the world would only be a matter of time. This round of cultivation was not a waste after all. Xiaoping clenched his fists and felt the abundant power within his body. His current battle strength was at least a third stronger than before, and his powers were even denser than before. He felt a confidence that he had never felt before. Chapter 2762. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. At this moment, Xiaoping finally came out of seclusion. During this period of time, he had stabilized his cultivation base and gained a deeper understanding of the laws of creation. He even had a certain level of understanding of the laws of the world. One could say that his strength had increased immensely. It's time to come out of seclusion. I wonder what secrets are hidden in this abyss. Xiaoping stood up. He knew that the abyss was separated into the outer and inner forbidden grounds. Even demigod-level demons would not dare to step into the inner forbidden grounds as it was extremely dangerous. The outer forbidden grounds were not as dangerous as the inner forbidden grounds. At the very least, if the demigod-level demons were careful and did not touch the forbidden grounds, they would not die. Therefore, the competition of the forbidden grounds was basically held in the outer forbidden grounds. No demons would be so foolish as to enter the inner forbidden grounds. However, Xiaoping was different. He was here to find the secrets of the abyss. Naturally, he wanted to enter and see what was going on in this famous place. Of course, he would not casually send his real body in. As long as he sent his doppelganger in to investigate, he would not die even if he met with any danger. After all, he could condense his doppelganger back at any time. Whoosh! Xiaoping's body flashed and he left the world of the classic of mountains and seas, returning to the abyss. Just then, Xiaoping sensed a series of intense void ripples in the distance. Such a battle was even more intense than the battle between the dozens of primordial demons previously. There seemed to be hundreds or even thousands of primordial fiendish demons fighting at the same time. It was an unprecedented battle to the death, and terrifying fluctuations of laws erupted from all directions. Interesting. To think that they are fighting so intensely. Could they be fighting for some treasure? Initially, Xiaoping had wanted to enter the inner forbidden grounds. However, he felt that it would not be too late to delay and watch the show. He might even be able to reap some benefits and be the fisherman. Whoosh! In an instant, Xiaoping's body flashed and he tore through the void. In an instant, he arrived at the place where the battle was taking place. At the same time, he concealed himself and seemed to blend into the void ripples. Even the surrounding primordial demons could not detect him. It was as though he was hiding in the depths of the dimension. He looked over and realized that the abyss demons seemed to have split into two sides in midair. There were more than 1,000 of them and all of them were archaic realm beings. As for immemorial ancient realm beings, they didn't dare to join in at all. They simply fought with true flames, displaying a tyrannical world domain. Worlds collided, erupting with terrifying natural law fluctuations, destroying everything. I see. After listening for a few minutes, Xiaoping finally understood why this group of abyssal demons were fighting so fiercely. It was because a small group of primordial demons had come to this place. They were extremely lucky and found the place where a god had fallen. There was a large amount of god's blood flowing in this place. It had even formed a small lake. Due to the erosion of divine blood and divine power over a long period of time, the ground had formed a vein of divine stones. There were at least 100,000 divine stones excavated. Apart from that, they also found more than 10 pieces of divine artifact fragments. One could imagine how great the harvest was. Let alone a primordial fiendish demon, even a demigod fiendish demon would be envious at the sight of such treasures. They would want nothing more than to seize all the treasures inside and take them for themselves. However, at the start it was just a small group fighting. Later on they called their friends and countless reinforcements came. In the end, it was a spectacular scene of thousands of primordial demons fighting. In reality, whoever could get their hands on this treasure would basically be the champion of the Abyss Grand Tournament. Therefore, be it for the treasures or for the victory of the Grand Tournament, they would definitely not give up here. Fight, fight. It's best if all of them die. Xiaoping rubbed his chin and was overjoyed. He had not expected to encounter something like this in this place. If both sides were to suffer heavy losses, he might be able to take the opportunity to reap all the benefits. Not only would he be able to obtain the corpses of the primordial demons, but he could also take the opportunity to snatch all the treasures that these primordial demons were fighting over. This was akin to eating up the one above and eating the one below. But at this moment, a strong natural law fluctuation came from afar. It was devastating and it just so happened that it hit the void where Xiaoping was at. Boom. In the next second, Xiaoping's real body appeared from the depths of the void. He had not expected to be so unlucky to be hit by the aftermath of the battle between these abyssal demons. But actually, this was not something that was difficult to encounter. After all, the battle between thousands of primordial demons had almost destroyed the void within a radius of billions of kilometers. The battle fluctuations were everywhere and there was almost no space to dodge. Therefore it was very normal for this to affect Xia Ping. Flower Demon Austin? Instantly some primordial demons noticed Xia Ping. After all, everyone present was primordial demons. This was an extremely intense battlefield and Xia Ping was currently disguised as Austin, an immortal demon. Such an immortal demon appearing in front of so many primordial demons was like a little white rabbit suddenly appearing in front of thousands of ferocious tigers. How could this not attract attention? In an instant, all the primordial demons noticed Xia Ping who had suddenly appeared. They could not be blamed. After all, in such an intense battle, their nerves were instantly tense, and they had to pay attention to every movement around them. Otherwise, if they were even slightly careless, they would probably die. Therefore, no matter what unexpected situation occurred, they would immediately pay attention to it. They would definitely not be careless. What's going on? Why would Austin appear in this place? A clear voice could not help but cry out. The one who had spoken was Moon Demon Monica, a top-tier beauty. Her beautiful eyes looked at Xia Ping in disbelief, as if she had never thought that Xia Ping would appear here. To be honest, Monica originally did not intend to participate in this abyssal forbidden ground competition, and her father, the Night Devil King, also forbade her to participate. However, after seeing so many ex-girlfriends of Austin, she immediately became angry and felt that she had to participate. Otherwise, during the competition, Austin would be snatched away by those shameless female demons, and her man would be snatched away. Therefore, she played some tricks and used the power of the Night Devil King to forcefully participate in this abyssal forbidden ground competition and sneaked in. This time, in order to find Xia Ping, she walked everywhere and inadvertently fell into this battlefield. Because of Moon Demon Monica's tyrannical strength, she even became one of the main forces of the battlefield and encountered most of the pressure. Many primordial demons joined forces and wanted to hammer Moon Demon Monica to death. Sogu website. Chapter 2763. It is indeed Austin. Moon Demon Monica was not the only one here. Thunder Demon Sha Munsa, White Bone Demon Jennifer, Nine-Headed Snake Demon and other female demons also appeared on the battlefield to fight against Monica. They also wanted to take the opportunity to kill Moon Demon Monica. After all, they already had a conflict in the square outside. They could settle it together in the Abyss Forbidden area. At the same time, they could determine the winner and the loser to get Austin. However, they did not expect that the Flower Devil Austin would actually appear in such a dangerous battlefield. No matter what, this was a dangerous place. If ordinary immortal demons approached this place, they would be instantly killed by the terrifying world wave. No demon dared to approach at all. However, Flower Demon Austin still dared to hide in the dark. In fact, his concealment ability was extraordinary as well. The other primordial fiendish demons couldn't discover his whereabouts at all. It was only an accidental fluctuation that caused the Flower Devil Austin to reveal himself. Everyone, this is just a misunderstanding. I am just a passing demon. I have no intention of snatching any treasure. You guys continue fighting. I have something to do and will leave first. Xia Ping laughed heartily and yawned. He found an excuse and wanted to leave the battlefield quietly. Misunderstanding? Misunderstanding my ass. You are just an ant. How dare you interfere in the war of us primordial fiendish demons? Die immediately. An primordial fiendish demon roared with murderous intent. It had not liked Austin for a long time. He was just a pretty boy, but he had gained the love of so many powerful female demons. He must have enjoyed a lot of good fortune. As for it, it did not know how long it had pursued these goddesses. However, they did not even look at it. This made it very unbalanced and it wanted to kill Austin. Now it finally had the chance. In the Abyss Forbidden area, it was not guilty to kill any fiendish demon. It did not need to worry about anything. Therefore, without a second word, it made a prompt decision to immediately kill Xia Ping. Gabriel, how dare you? Seeing this, Moon Demon Monica roared with murderous intent. She immediately wanted to stop Austin. She could not watch Austin be killed by other primordial fiendish demons. However, before Monica could even take a single step, 3 to 4 primordial fiendish demons appeared in front of Monica. They had a tacit understanding and stopped Monica from moving. They didn't have any deep hatred with Xia Ping, but if they could kill Austin, Monica would suffer a serious blow. At that time, they would be able to defeat Moon Demon Monica. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thunder Devil Charmansa, White Bone Devil Jennifer, and Hydra Devil also wanted to stop them, but the other primordial demons had already expected this and stepped forward to stop these female demons. Haha, foolish Austin. There's a way out for you, but you chose to barge into hell. No one can save you today. Go to hell. That primordial fiendish demon cackled cruelly as he struck out with his claw. The claw contained the terrifying power of the world laws, as though it could crush an entire world with a single strike. This was the full force of a primordial fiendish demon. Even primordial fiendish demons wouldn't dare to underestimate it and had to deal with it with all their might, let alone a mere undying realm fiendish demon. If this claw landed, Flower Devil Austin would definitely die. His entire body would be torn apart and he would die without a complete corpse. It's over. It's all over now. Moon Fiend Monica, Thunder Fiend Charmanza, White Bone Fiend Jennifer, Hydra Fiend and other female fiends were all pale. They seemed to have seen the tragic scene of Flower Fiend Austin being beaten to death by this primordial fiend demon. Dong. In an instant, this claw smashed down, causing the surrounding void to explode. All the power was repelled and all of it was aimed at Xia Ping. However, at this moment Xia Ping moved. He looked at the primordial fiendish demon in front of him indifferently. His eyes were incomparably calm as he pointed out with his finger. Bam! At this moment, the finger touched the gigantic black claw of the primordial demon gently. All of the power of the world was crushed into dust at this moment. It turned into nothingness and turned into dust. At this moment all the energy in the surroundings seemed to have calmed down. However, Xia Ping was still standing where he was, unharmed. It was as though his finger was a giant pillar that could support the heavens, blocking the terrifying claw of the primordial fiendish demon with ease. Impossible? The primordial fiendish demon was stunned. He was completely dumbfounded. His mind was blank. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't imagine that this would happen. He was an primordial fiendish demon, a terrifying existence that was second only to demigod fiendish demons. It was an easy task for him to kill an undying realm fiendish demon without using much strength. When the claw landed, he could imagine the tragic state that Flower Devil Austin would be in. He would definitely be crushed by this claw. Even his soul would be torn apart, and he would let out an agonizing scream. However, the scene before him had completely overturned his imagination. To think that Flower Devil Austin would be unscathed and block his primordial fiendish claw with ease. What kind of joke was this? How could he accept such a ridiculous fact? What happened just now? How could this kid block Gabriel's primordial fiendish claw? I'm not sure. Everything happened too quickly. I couldn't see it clearly. I saw it clearly. That kid blocked Gabriel's primordial fiendish claw with a single finger. The problem is that this is too ridiculous. How could something like this happen? Yeah, I saw it too. However, I thought that my eyes must be playing tricks on me. I might have been hallucinating. That's right. He's just an undying realm fiendish demon. How could he block the attack of an primordial fiendish demon? Even if this kid were to ascend to the heavens, he shouldn't be able to do that. Here's the problem. He did it? What's going on? Many primordial fiendish demons were dumbfounded. They were even more dumbfounded than Gabriel because they were spectators. However, they still couldn't figure out what was going on. Austin. Moon Demon Monica, Thunder Demon Charmanza, White Bone Demon Jennifer, Hydra Demon, and other female demons also widened their beautiful eyes. To be honest, they were more surprised than any other demon. After all, they thought that they should be very familiar with the Flower Demon Austin. However, this scene had completely overturned their imaginations and shattered their previous imaginations of the Flower Demon Austin. Generally speaking, Flower Devil Austin wasn't a gigolo, nor was he an immortal demon that relied on women. How could he suddenly become so strong that he could block an immemorial attack in an instant? Sogu reading URL. Chapter 2764. You rascal. The primordial fiendish demon stared at Xia Ping with a gloomy expression. It wasn't a fool. With just one touch, it could sense the terrifying power contained in Xia Ping's finger. It seemed to be all-encompassing and contained countless laws. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Lin Fan to block its primordial claw so easily. Moreover, this wasn't a power that an ordinary flower demon could display. I didn't want to be calculative with you. I didn't expect you to jump out so early to court death. Xia Ping looked at the primordial fiendish demon calmly. Initially, he wanted to sneak into the core region of the Forbidden Abyss silently. He didn't expect this group of fiendish demons to want to kill him. In that case, there was no need for him to be polite. At his level of strength and cultivation, there was no need for him to swallow his pride. What? The primordial fiendish demon's hair stood on end. At this moment, it felt a terrifying murderous aura erupting from Flower Demon Austin. It filled the void in all directions and seeped into every cell of its body. It was as though its bloodline and instincts were warning it that if it didn't escape, it would be dead. The problem was that this was just a small flower demon in front of it. It was impossible for it to be a match for a primordial fiendish demon like it. Why would its instincts have such a reaction? Before it could do anything, Xiaoping made his move. Even though he moved later, he arrived first and punched out. This punch contained the power of time and space of the four seasons. It constantly rotated and rotated as though it was the reincarnation of time and space. In the depths of the fist, there was a terrifying wheel of time and space that could destroy everything. Moreover, the speed of this punch exceeded the limits of time and space. It surpassed the speed of light. The primordial fiendish demon was less than a few meters away from Xiaoping. At such a close distance and such a fast speed, even a demigod fiendish demon couldn't dodge it. Dong. In the next second, the punch landed squarely on the abdomen of the primordial fiendish demon. The terrifying rotation of the four seasons and the power of reincarnation of time and space erupted from the body of the primordial fiendish demon. The primordial fiendish demon let out a shrill cry. It couldn't even resist for a second and was instantly blown up by the punch of reincarnation of time and space. Moreover, not only did it blow up its demon body, even its soul was crushed by the power of reincarnation of time and space. It was instantly turned into dust. This. You must be joking, right? One punch. Just one punch and he killed an immemorial fiendish demon? What kind of joke is this? Since when did flower demons become so powerful? Is Flower Demon Austin such a terrifying demon? It must be an illusion. What happened earlier must be an illusion. It's just a flower demon. How could it be so terrifying? All the primordial fiendish demons were dumbfounded. They were many times more shocked than before. After all, Flower Devil Austin had merely blocked the attack of a primordial fiendish demon. Although blocking an attack from a primordial demon wasn't an easy task, it wasn't impossible. For example, a special bloodline power, a trump card, or even an abyssal treasure. The problem was that blocking the attack of a primordial fiendish demon, killing it, or smashing it with a single punch were two completely different things. The difference was like heaven and earth. Some of them couldn't believe their eyes, as if they were getting to know this Flower Devil Austin for the first time. Since when did Austin have such strength? Did this happen recently? Thunder Demon Shamansa was also dumbfounded. Her beautiful eyes were full of confusion. To be honest, she hadn't seen Austin for a long time. In her impression, Austin was just an ordinary flower demon. Although he was handsome, he was still a pretty boy. She could only protect him. She only treated him as a pet that she was determined to get. However, this scene had completely shattered her worldview and shocked her to the point that she was about to explode. Did Austin have some fortuitous encounter during this period of time that gave him the strength to smash an primordial fiendish demon? White Bone Demon Jennifer also looked at Monica curiously. It was the same for the nine-headed snake demon. After all, it was Moon Demon Monica who was with Flower Devil Austin during this period of time. Moon Demon Monica must know more than them what had happened during this period of time. They thought that Flower Devil Austin had some fortuitous encounter after leaving them. That was why his strength became so terrifying. Otherwise, how could such a thing have happened? In fact, although it was rare in the Abyss world to have a fortuitous encounter, it was not unheard of. Some Abyss kings had obtained similar fortuitous encounters and obtained the strength of a demigod fiendish demon. It was probably the same for Flower Devil Austin. I don't know. He has never shown any strength in front of me. I thought he was just an immortal fiendish demon. Moon Demon Monica was also dumbfounded. She was at a loss and very confused. To be honest, she also wanted to ask these ex-girlfriends whether Austin had been hiding his strength and pretending to be an ordinary pretty boy. Only now did he really show it. It seems that Austin doesn't like you that much. You don't even know this kind of thing. What a loser. Thunder Demon Shamansa sneered and looked at Monica with contempt. Aren't you the same? What's the use of an ex-girlfriend who doesn't know anything? You even said that Austin likes you the most. That's pure wishful thinking. Moon Demon Monica gnashed her teeth. Interesting. I want to fight again. If I tear apart your face and disfigure you, let's see if Austin will still like an ugly woman like you. Thunder Demon Shamansa was full of killing intent. Your mouth stinks more than a latrine pit. Wait until I poison your mouth. Let's see if you still dare to speak carelessly. Also, if you want to fight, who's afraid of who? Moon Demon Monica sneered, not to be outdone. Damn, they're still fighting at this time. White Bone Demon Jennifer and Hydra Demon were speechless. These two women were fighting over a man without looking at the time. Damn, is this pretty boy so fierce? At this moment, an immemorial fiendish demon from Rock Demon City in the distance could not help but curse. He had known Flower Devil Austin for a period of time, but he had never seen this kid so terrifying. It's really this kid. It must be this guy who killed your son, six-armed lion demon Chapman. Another immemorial fiendish demon from Rock Demon City Demon Palace said. He looked at nine-armed lion demon Gentutin. At this moment, the immemorial fiendish demons from Rock Demon City had basically gathered together. After they entered the Forbidden Abyss, they used the Abyss Spirit secret technique to communicate with each other and gathered together. It's this kid who did it? The problem is that I didn't expect him to be so powerful. Nine-armed lion demon Gentutin was a little confused. To be honest, he had always wanted to find Flower Devil Austin for revenge. He wanted to ask who killed his son. Seeing this scene, he felt that there was a 90% chance that Flower Devil Austin was the murderer who killed his son. The problem was that this kid's strength was a little too tyrannical. With one punch, he blew up an immemorial fiendish demon that was comparable to him. He destroyed the other party's spirit and soul, leaving nothing behind. This kid could easily blow up that immemorial fiendish demon. In other words, he could also easily blow up himself. He wanted revenge, but he did not want to die. Who could tell him when this little Flower Devil Austin became so terrifying? Was there still justice in the world? What exactly happened? Sogu website. Chapter 2765. Flower Demon Austin, you're quite capable. You actually pretended to be weak. No wonder you dared to participate in the grand competition of the Forbidden Abyss. But why did you hide your strength? An immemorial demon narrowed his eyes and stared at Xia Ping. Terrifying killing intent emanated from his body. What does this have to do with you? Do you think you have the right to say such things to me? Xia Ping stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the immemorial demon indifferently. Not answering? Since that's the case, I'll capture you and interrogate you. When the time comes, I'll see if you'll answer or not, and if you're really that stubborn. The immemorial demon was filled with killing intent. With your abilities? To be honest, I don't care about you. Xia Ping said indifferently. Don't care? What if I'm included? Will you care? Me. In an instant, hundreds of immemorial demons stood out at the same time. Terrifying killing intent erupted from their bodies and they were all targeting Xia Ping. One by one, they stepped forward to provoke him, not concealing their malice and killing intent. The nine-armed lion demon Gentutin and the other immemorial demons also stood out. To be honest, they also wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of Flower Demon Austin. If they missed this opportunity, there wouldn't be a next time. Rumble, one after another, world domains came crashing down, covering the void in all directions. Layer upon layer, it was as if hundreds of worlds were stacked on top of each other, producing a terrifying power that distorted the void. It was shocking. This scene shocked every single primordial fiendish demon. After all, hundreds of immemorial demons fighting against one was unprecedented and unheard of. No immemorial realm sage could deal with so many sages of the same level. Without a doubt, if they really fought, it would definitely be a one-sided battle. There was no doubt about it. So what if you have more people? You think too highly of your own strength. Xia Ping's expression was very calm. He didn't care about these immemorial demons at all. You really won't shed a tear until you see your coffin. In that case, I'll let you know how the word death is written. Do it, capture this kid. If he dares to resist, kill him immediately. I'll make him die without a complete corpse. One of the primordial fiendish demons bellowed. As soon as he finished speaking, over 100 primordial fiendish demons attacked almost at the same time. They were well trained, and one world domain after another erupted from their bodies, crushing towards Xia Ping. It was as though hundreds of great worlds were smashing towards Xia Ping, erupting with destructive power. Vaguely, there were countless great worlds being destroyed in the depths of the void. Even a primordial fiendish demon would be reduced to dust if it was struck by this force. Oh no. Moon Fiend Monica and the other female fiendish demons had a drastic change in expression. They had never expected that this group of primordial fiendish demons would unite and join forces to deal with Flower Fiend Austin. This was simply unheard of. However, even if they wanted to lend a helping hand, it would be difficult for them to do so. After all, it was the joint attack of over 100 primordial fiendish demons. If they were to step in and block it, only death awaited them. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You've actually made such a big scene. It looks like I have no choice but to act. Since that's the case, I'll deal with you quickly. If the commotion is too big and the Abyss King is drawn over, I won't be able to play anymore. Xia Ping looked emotionlessly at the group of primordial fiendish demons. Won't be able to play anymore? When one of the primordial fiendish demons heard this, he immediately laughed. There are so many of us primordial fiendish demons joining forces to kill you. Do you think we're just playing with you? Wait, what's this? He had wanted to mock Xia Ping without restraint, but in the next second, his pupils constricted. He looked at Xia Ping in extreme horror and simply couldn't believe his eyes. Because at this moment, a huge, ancient black and white clock had appeared above the kid's head. It seemed to have been born at some point in time, and it emitted an ancient, chaotic, sacred, forbidden, and other aura. It was as though this was a clock that was born at the moment of primal chaos, and it recorded the eternal history of the universe. This was the eternal clock. At this moment, the moment Xia Ping took out the eternal clock, a huge, terrifying, black and white, silent, and eternal space-time domain spread out. Such a space-time domain was black and white, and it seemed to corrode the space-time domain within a radius of hundreds of thousands of light-years in an instant. It completely solidified the colorful world, turning it into an eternal black and white world. And this was a world where time stopped. The hour hand stopped. It didn't move forward or backward. It just stopped in this 1 second. At this moment, the hundreds of primordial fiendish demons that had tried to kill Xia Ping were instantly frozen in time. They couldn't move their bodies, and even their thoughts stopped at this moment. It wasn't just these hundreds of primordial fiendish demons. The other hundreds of primordial fiendish demons that hadn't attacked, including Moon Fiend Monica and the other primordial fiendish demons, had their time frozen as well. Is this the power of a divine weapon? It's too invincible. Xia Ping was extremely emotional. To be honest, he rarely used the eternal clock to fight enemies, and this was the first time he had used it against so many primordial fiendish demons. However, after using it, he knew how terrifying the eternal clock was. It was an invincible ability that had instantly eroded the space-time laws of the universe, and froze the time of all the primordial fiendish demons. This was a power that surpassed the laws. Other than gods, only divine weapons could use it. It was no wonder that divine weapons were the Dharma treasures of the peak races. If there were such Dharma treasures, the other peak races wouldn't dare to casually use them. Otherwise, both sides would definitely suffer. And this was just like the era of Earth, where no one could casually use nuclear weapons. However, the amount of Dharma power needed is too great. Xia Ping sensed that after using the power of creation to activate the eternal clock, the Dharma power in his body was considered rich. It far exceeded that of the primordial sages, and he was probably comparable to a demigod sage. However, in just a second he felt that the Dharma power in his body seemed to have been consumed by more than half. If this continued, all the Dharma power in his body would be completely drained by the eternal time. This was a trump card that could only be used at critical moments. Seal. In the next second, Xia Ping attacked again. He couldn't afford to waste so much time. Otherwise, taking out the eternal clock to deal with this group of primordial fiendish demons would be a waste of effort. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, he captured all the primordial fiendish demons and imprisoned them in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. At the same time, he used the 6-Dao sealing technique to completely seal the power of these primordial fiendish demons. Tick-tock, in the next second, the eternal clock's seconds started to move. In an instant, this world returned to its original state, and the originally frozen time also started to flow at this moment. However, all the primordial fiendish demons on the battlefield had disappeared. They had all been captured and sealed by Xia Ping, third sect leader. Chapter 2766. Whoosh. Xia Ping waved his hand and immediately took back the divine artifact, the eternal clock. The pressure of the divine artifact disappeared all of a sudden, as if nothing had happened just now. At this moment, the thousands of primordial demons on the battlefield were captured, sealed, and imprisoned in the space of the classic of mountains and seas. Even according to the foundation of the Abyss world, losing thousands of primordial demons at once was definitely a heavy blow. If the other kings of the Abyss found out about this, they would definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. Unfortunately, this was the forbidden area of the Abyss. Even the kings of the Abyss could not act recklessly. Who knew how long it would take for them to thoroughly investigate this matter? Although using the eternal clock this time consumed a lot of Xia Ping's energy, it was still very worthwhile to seal so many primordial demons at once. After all, if he continued to delay, he did not know what would happen. Maybe it would attract more kings of the Abyss. It was better to deal with these primordial demons at once. After this use, Xiaoping also became more familiar with the power of the eternal clock. The divine artifact is really amazing. With just one move, it actually killed thousands of primordial demons in seconds. This ability is simply unsolvable. Green Ox, who was next to him, was shocked when he saw this scene. To be honest, his former master was just an ancient saint. He was not a match for the primordial saints at all, let alone thousands of primordial demons at the same time. This was impossible. The divine artifact is indeed powerful, but it also needs to be activated. Only an ancient saint like Xiaoping, who has an incredible power of creation, can barely activate the divine artifact. If it were other saints, they would probably only be able to stare at it. Corinne said solemnly. Indeed. Green Ox could not help but nod. Even if a tyrannical divine artifact was obtained by an ordinary saint, with their strength, it was estimated that they would not be able to mobilize the slightest bit of the divine artifact's power. Even if they managed to mobilize it, they would not be able to exert much of its power. It would be better to use the divine artifact. Only a powerhouse who had reached the demigod level could mobilize a part of the divine artifact's power. Moreover, this eternal clock is probably not an ordinary divine artifact. Even among the many divine artifacts, it should be relatively powerful. That's why it has such amazing power. Corinne guessed. The eternal clock is indeed extraordinary. He agreed with this point very much. He had heard many legends about god artifacts, but he had never heard of a god artifact that could instantly freeze time and space for billions of light years. This was almost the limit of a god artifact's power. The eternal clock was probably one of the best divine artifacts. Crash! At this moment, Xiaoping waved his hand and immediately collected all the godstones, god blood, and god artifact fragments scattered on the ground, placing them into the world of the classic of mountains and seas. To think that there are so many divine stones and divine blood here. We've struck it rich this time. Xiaoping smiled slightly. With so many celestial stones on hand, he would probably be able to break through to the world level more than 10 times without any problems. It would be more than enough to support his enormous cultivation expenditure. Even though he had a lot of resources to support him, no one would complain about having more resources. Even if he didn't use these god stones and god's blood, he could use them to exchange for other treasures. These god artifact fragments don't seem simple at all. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. Through his divine sense, he could tell that he had obtained a total of 50 to 60 god artifact fragments, and they seemed to be able to combine with each other. When he put them together, a chemical reaction actually occurred. It was as though the divine power and divine power within the god artifact fragments had reacted and were about to fuse together. They seemed to have transformed into golden energy that constantly wriggled and touched each other, attempting to fuse together. It was as though they were made of memory metal. No way. Can it be that this god artifact isn't actually dead? If I can find all of its fragments, I might be able to revive it? Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but think of this possibility. He subconsciously asked the system. The system sensed Xiaoping's thoughts and replied, "Host's guess is correct. God artifacts are very difficult to destroy. Even if they are shattered by external forces, as long as the core divinity within them is not destroyed, then with the passage of time and the assistance of a large number of resources, it is possible for them to recover and become a true God artifact. They all have the ability to repair themselves. In truth, this is the most basic characteristic of God artifacts, ageless power." I see. Xiaoping nodded. No wonder he felt that God artifacts were extraordinary. In fact, God artifacts were already a special kind of ageless creature. Even if they were shattered, they would not die completely. There was still hope for revival. Interesting. This God artifact has a total of 81 fragments. I have now obtained 64 fragments, which means there are still 17 fragments scattered around. He rubbed his chin. To be honest, he kind of wanted to collect all of the God artifact fragments and see what kind of God artifact it was. Moreover, with one more God artifact, his foundation would also increase. The God artifact fragments can sense each other. If I use the power of these God artifact fragments, I might be able to find the God artifact fragments scattered around the Forbidden Abyss. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. Originally, if he were to search for the God artifact fragments alone, according to the size of the Forbidden Abyss, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. It would be impossible to find them. However, if these God artifact fragments could sense each other, then it would be different. He would be able to accurately know the specific location of the God artifact fragments scattered everywhere. Then let's give it a try. Thinking of this, Xia Ping used the golden crow of hell flames on his body and instantly seeped into the god artifact fragments, refining them completely. If it was an ordinary sage, it would be impossible to refine the god artifact fragments. God artifacts were not treasures that could be refined so easily. Even if they were ownerless, it was still impossible. One could only watch helplessly. However, Xia Ping, who had the demon god bloodline like the golden crow of hell, could easily refine god artifacts. This was a special ability that came with the bloodline itself. Sizzle, sizzle, in an instant, these god artifact fragments were invaded by the golden crow of hell flames. In an instant, the negative power and various resentments deep inside the fragments were completely burned away. They were completely refined and turned into smoke. In just a short while, these god artifact fragments were left with the purest energy. They were not eroded by the resentment power and the power of the abyss. They returned to their original state. At the same time, Xia Ping seeped his divine sense in and easily refined these god artifact fragments. Chapter 2767. In the blink of an eye, 7 days and 7 nights had passed. Xia Ping used the connection between the divine artifact fragments to constantly search for the remaining fragments. Naturally, he encountered many dangers along the way, such as abominations and divine prohibitions. However, without exception, he was able to escape from danger. Today he had finally found most of the remaining fragments of the god artifact. 80 divine artifact fragments. There's still one piece that I haven't found, and it's the core piece. After such a long search, Xia Ping found a total of 80 divine artifact fragments. Only the core part was missing. Even if he found 80 divine artifact fragments, he still didn't know what kind of divine artifact it was. So far he couldn't assemble these fragments. He probably wouldn't be able to restore the divine artifact until he found the last piece. The last divine artifact fragment isn't in the outer area of the Forbidden Abyss, but in the inner area? It seems that no matter what, I have to go into the inner area to find out. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. Under the perception of his divine sense, he could sense a powerful god artifact calling out to him in the inner region of the Forbidden Abyss, constantly emitting a huge signal. He could clearly sense that the last divine artifact fragment was in the inner area of the Forbidden Abyss. However, the inner area of the Forbidden Abyss is still too dangerous. This is a place where even the kings of the Abyss die. I'll let my clone go in and scout the situation first. Xia Ping touched his chin. He decided to let his real body temporarily find a secret place to hide, and then let his clone enter the inner area of the Forbidden Abyss. In this way, even if there was any danger, he would only lose a clone. Not long after, he immediately found a hidden cave and temporarily hid here. At the same time, he set up a restriction formation in the surroundings to conceal the aura of this place. Then he sent his Kunpeng clone to set off. After all, among his many clones, the Kunpeng clone had the strongest life-saving ability. It could easily escape if it encountered any danger. Another day passed. Xia Ping set off after he was fully prepared. His Kunpeng clone followed the guidance of the divine artifact power and crossed the boundary between the inner area and the outer area without hesitation. Just as he entered the inner region of the Forbidden Abyss, Xia Ping felt a completely different atmosphere. He looked up and saw that the entire sky had split open. There were numerous cracks in the void, just like a spider web. From time to time, an enormous power of disaster would surge out from the cracks in the void. It was as if any wave of the power of disaster could kill a sage. Dong dong dong. In an instant, when Xia Ping stepped into this area, it was as if the aura of an outsider had alarmed this place. Suddenly, whistling sounds could be heard, and the wind howled angrily. The sky was immediately enraged, and millions of black lightning bolts came crashing down. They seemed to have locked onto Xia Ping's aura, covering an area of millions of kilometers. This is abyss black lightning? Xia Ping's pupils shrank. He immediately sensed that this was the terrifying black lightning from the abyss world. Even the demons of the abyss feared this terrifying lightning punishment. If struck by this abyssal black lightning, even an immortal body would be useless. The injuries sustained would not be able to heal, and it could even easily shatter the power of laws within one's body, causing the soul to suffer irrecoverable injuries. Countless demons of the abyss were afraid of this abyssal black lightning, and they were afraid to avoid it. However, they had encountered this abyssal black lightning just as they entered this place. Kunpeng mystique, reflect. In an instant, Xia Ping knew that he could not avoid it. However, he was not worried at all. He immediately activated his Kunpeng bloodline mystique. Instantly, dense Kunpeng runes appeared and covered his body. Indistinctly, there seemed to be a transparent void barrier around his body. Dong dong dong. Millions of abyssal black lightning bolts came crashing down and bombarded Xiaoping's body. However, these abyssal black lightning bolts could not penetrate the void barrier around Xiaoping's body. Even when these abyssal black lightning bolts bombarded Xiaoping's body, they were reflected back by the void barrier. They quickly bombarded the sky, causing countless abyssal black lightning bolts to collide with each other. Rumble, in an instant the two forces collided, and an earth-shattering sound erupted, causing the void to explode. Rumbling sounds rang out and a terrifying energy storm was created. Whoosh, such a collision seemed to have triggered the void storm in the depths of the void crack. It whistled and gusts of abyssal black wind blew over. Everything in its path was completely shattered. Even primordial saints who came into contact with the abyssal black wind would instantly be shaken to dust and die without a complete corpse. The abyssal black wind even produced a vortex power. It was like a black hole, and it immediately wanted to swallow Xiaoping into the void crack and kill him. Kunpeng Mystique, Voidification. Seeing this, Xiaoping's expression changed. He once again activated the Kunpeng Mystique. His entire body immediately became voidified. Without a sound, without a trace, he melded into the void as if he had jumped out of the 3 realms and 6 paths. The abyssal black wind blew over and immediately bombarded empty space. It swept across Xiaoping's body but it could not hit anything. It was as if it had hit air. Whoosh. Xiaoping's body was like a fish swimming in the depths of the void. The surrounding abyssal black lightning, abyssal black wind, and other terrifying powers of disaster could not harm him. It was as if his body was in another dimension, and he was looking at this world from a third perspective. In such a state he was almost invincible. Even demigod experts would find it difficult to attack him. Of course, in such a state he would not be able to attack any enemies. This place is like the world after the apocalypse. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He wandered in the inner region of the abyssal forbidden grounds and discovered that the ground was full of cracks. It was filled with a deathly still aura, and there were no signs of life. Moreover, there were disasters that came from the depths of the void. From time to time, abyssal storms would blow, and they could easily crush saints with terrifying strength. At the same time, he could also sense that the ground was covered in terrifying divine blood. There were many terrifying abyssal gods and vengeful spirits. It was many times more terrifying than the outside world. They wandered to and fro on this deathly still land, without any self-awareness and moving mechanically. It was as if these spirits were bound to this land and could never escape. This was a world after death, and bone-piercing coldness was emitted everywhere, freezing souls. Chapter 2768. Whoosh. At this moment, Xiaoping relied on the ability of the Kunpeng doppelganger to roam freely inside the forbidden area of the abyss, easily avoiding all kinds of void disasters. Even the wandering abominations, undead, vengeful spirits, and so on couldn't discover Xiaoping's existence. It was as if Xiaoping was air. This was the terrifying ability of the mythical Kunpeng. As long as it didn't want to, almost no life could discover the existence of the Kunpeng. Even a cosmic disaster couldn't discover it. Moreover, with the powerful defensive power of the mythical Kunpeng, even if a cosmic disaster accidentally bombarded its body, it could easily resist it with its own body's defense and remain unscathed. Not long after, Xiaoping finally arrived at the place with the strongest signal according to the mutual reaction of the divine artifact fragments. This place was almost close to the deepest part of the forbidden area of the abyss. This place was incomparably dangerous. It contained extremely dense abyssal demon power. Even if an invincible saint entered this place, he would be instantly corroded and degenerate into an abyssal monster. Even an ordinary abyssal demon might not be able to resist the corrosion of such abyssal demon power. All reason would be corroded in an instant, and they would become a monster without any intelligence. Only abyssal demons above the Archean saint level could barely survive in this place and wouldn't be harmed by the side effects of the abyssal demon power. This place. Xiaoping's pupils shrank. His figure was hidden in the depths of the void. At this moment he found a huge black space in front of him. It was almost boundless, and the land seemed to be incomparably fertile. It was completely different from the deathly still land before. And in the middle of this black land, there was an incomparably huge black tree. It was unknown how tall this black tree was. Its branches directly reached the end of the sky and penetrated into every part of the abyss void. Its roots deeply penetrated into the ground and no one knew where they extended to. It seemed to occupy the entire area of the forbidden area of the abyss, or perhaps it occupied more area than Xiaoping imagined. And this black tree didn't have any leaves, only bare branches as if it was about to wither. But its body emitted a terrifying abyssal demon energy, as if it was the source of the abyss. Such powerful abyssal demon power. Xiaoping looked over. Even though he had seen countless abyssal demons, he had never seen one with such frightening abyssal power. This was a power that was darker than darkness, a magic power that was deeper than the abyss, and an aura that was quieter than death, as if it was the ultimate source of the abyss. Any light that shone on the tree would be devoured cleanly, so it was extremely black. No light could be reflected, and all of it would be devoured by its body. However, what made Xiaoping's hair stand on end was the fact that there were countless skeletons on the surface of the black tree. Countless vengeful spirits seemed to be growing on the tree. These vengeful spirits were crying out in pain, wailing, and sorrow. They were constantly struggling as if they wanted to climb out from the depths of the tree. The surface of the tree was densely packed with black handprints, which made one's scalp go numb. Even if it was an invincible realm saint, if he got close to the black tree, he would probably be immediately eroded by the negative power of the abyss and become a lunatic. He would lose all his senses and become a walking dead. He could even vaguely see that the black tree was densely packed with twisted black abyssal runes, as if they were wriggling abyssal worms. Every black rune contained a strong corrosive, and dark nature. Ordinary saints would go completely crazy if they looked at it. They simply couldn't withstand such spiritual pressure. If an ordinary person saw this scene, their entire head would immediately explode, and not even their bones would be left. What is this? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and continued to look over. He discovered that there were terrifying golden corpses under the black tree, emitting an immortal aura of divinity. It seemed that even a wisp of the aura emitted from their bodies could shatter the sky, shatter countless laws of the universe, and seriously injure and kill saints. Even if they turned into corpses, they were still sacred and inviolable. This was the prestige of a tiger that would not fall even in death. However, this black tree didn't have any reverence. It completely treated these golden corpses as food. Its roots also pierced into the corpses, and it seemed to be constantly absorbing the huge energy and divinity within these corpses. Xiaoping could even vaguely see those roots constantly wriggling like water pipes, constantly devouring the essence and energy within these corpses. At this moment, these golden corpses had long been unrecognizable. Only two empty eyes were left, as if they were extremely shocked, unwilling, angry, and afraid before they died. No matter how terrifying they were when they were alive, they were now dead. These are the corpses of gods? Xiaoping held his breath. His heart was in turmoil and he couldn't believe his eyes. He didn't expect to see so many corpses of gods on the ground. He counted carefully. There were a total of 18 corpses of gods. It seemed that the internal energy and divinity of these corpses were constantly being devoured by this black tree. And the divine artifact fragment he wanted to find was at the foot of one of the corpses. The divine artifact fragment was reacting violently, as if it was reminding him to immediately retrieve the main fragment of the divine artifact. That way the entire divine artifact would be complete. The problem was that he couldn't get close at all. This was because the power of this black tree was too terrifying. The space around it was distorted, and it seemed that all the power of laws had completely lost effect, forming an absolute domain. Even with the ability of the Kunpeng clone, once he got close to this black tree he would be instantly discovered. Could this be the ultimate force of the abyss world, the strongest demon that controls the entire abyss, the demon master? Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and suppressed the shock in his heart. To be honest, this black tree was the strongest person he had ever seen in his life. Even the dragon god shrine master of the dragon clan couldn't compare to this black tree. This was because this black tree was not a simple creature. It had devoured the power of 18 corpses of gods and had reached the supreme realm that was neither human nor god. Its body was full of divinity. It was not a big deal to say that it was now a creature of gods. In fact, it was only one step away from truly ascending to the realm of gods. The other party had such strength and potential. Chapter 2769. What's going on? There's actually someone here? Just as Xiaoping was about to continue observing, he suddenly discovered a figure sitting cross-legged under the black tree. It was an old man in a black robe. The black-robed old man's aura seemed to have merged with the black tree and the surrounding void laws. Almost no aura leaked out. In fact, this was also the reason why Xia Ping did not notice the black-robed old man's existence earlier. He almost mistook the black-robed old man for one of the corpses under the tree. However, the black-robed old man was not dead at all. As he sat cross-legged on the ground, the void laws in all directions trembled gently as if they were breathing. Endless abyssal origin power surged into his body. Although the black-robed old man's aura was not as terrifying as that of the black demonic tree, Xia Ping did not know why he felt more dangerous than the black demonic tree. No way could this old man be the real demon lord? Xia Ping had already overturned his previous guess. Although the black tree was terrifying, the person who could cultivate beside it was not a simple person. Moreover, the black-robed old man's aura was even more unfathomable. He had completely concealed his aura and seemed to have completely comprehended the various laws of the universe and reached the perfected realm. There's a palace behind that tree? Xia Ping continued to look and found a magnificent palace behind the tree. It was engraved with dense and mysterious runes, as if it was an inheritance shrine. He did not know what was inside the palace, but it might be the so-called official residence of the demon lord. Otherwise it would not have appeared here so casually. But why does this old man look so familiar? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. For some reason, he felt that the black-robed old man was inexplicably familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. However, he was not very sure where exactly he had seen him before. After thinking about it carefully, this was almost impossible. After all, the black-robed old man was an abyssal demon and possibly one of the strongest fiendish demons. How could he have seen him before? Wait, I've seen him before. I've seen him before. All of a sudden, Xia Ping had a flash of inspiration. It was as if a bolt of lightning flashed in the depths of his sea of consciousness and streaked across the sky. A scene emerged from a distant memory. It was when he had just left Cloud Continent and arrived in the universe for the first time to join the Universe sect. At that time, he was accepted as a disciple by the Dark North Ancestor. He knelt before the Ancestor and became a disciple of the Heaven and Earth sect. The Ancestor of the Heaven and Earth sect was the famous Heaven and Earth sect Ancestor. Ancestor Jianghu seemed to have disappeared a long time ago. No one knew where he went. Many people thought that he had died in some secret world. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to disappear for such a long time. Many elders of the Universe sect also thought that Ancestor Universe might have fallen. The black-robed elder's appearance was exactly the same as Ancestor Jianghu's. No way could it be that this black-robed old man is Ancestor Jianghu? He didn't disappear but came to the Abyss world to become the Demon Lord? Xia Ping blinked his eyes and a storm was set off in his heart. He did not expect the Demon Lord's origin to be so shocking. Naturally, he was not sure if the black-robed old man was the real Demon Lord. However, the black-robed old man's appearance in this place was enough to prove his strength and status. Even if the black-robed old man was not the Demon Lord, he must be a person with a high status in the Abyss world. However, if Ancestor Jianghu was the legendary Demon Lord, it could explain why there were so many changes in the Abyss world, and why there were so many orders and reforms. It was probably because of Ancestor Jianghu's experience as a human. He brought human wisdom, system, and experience to the Abyss world to help the Abyss demons develop rapidly. Ancestor Jianghu also had this strength and wisdom. After all, he was the one who created the Heaven and Earth sect from scratch. Even after he disappeared, the Heaven and Earth sect did not decline. Instead, it became stronger. At this moment, the more Xia Ping thought about it, the more doubts he had. Why did the black-robed old man look so much like Ancestor Jianghu? Was his true identity the Ancestor Jianghu, or was it just a coincidence? If it was not a coincidence and the black-robed old man was the Ancestor Jianghu, then how did he enter the Abyss world as a human saint? How did he gain the trust of so many Abyss demons and become the common master of the entire Abyss world? Even if he really did this and became the Demon Lord, why did he launch a war to invade the various worlds? Was he not considered a human anymore? Rumble. Just as Xia Ping was deep in thought, the entire Abyss Forbidden Land experienced a terrifying tremor at this moment. It was as if the entire Abyss world was experiencing a super earthquake, shaking violently and roaring. Above the sky, a terrifying void crack completely split open, as if the sky of the Abyss world was cut in half, producing a scene like the end of the world. What's going on? Xia Ping was a little confused at this moment. He did not know what was going on. According to Flower Demon Austin's memory, such a thing had almost never happened in the entire history of the Abyss world. He felt as if he was in a huge vortex in the center of the storm. Boom! At this moment, the void crack in the sky opened up, and a huge silver gate appeared. The gate was engraved with dense mysterious runes, exuding an extremely tyrannical aura that shook the heavens and the earth. Even though Xiaoping had seen some divine artifacts, this silver gate was still relatively powerful among them. It seemed to be filled with the terrifying power of the law of the void, communicating with countless voids. No way, this is the divine artifact of the machinery race, the Southern Heavenly Gate. Why would this divine artifact appear in this place? Xiaoping looked up and saw the huge silver gate. Ever since he became an ancient saint, many confidential information of the human race had been made available to him, including the divine artifacts of the major races. In fact, after so many years of history, the divine artifacts of the major races had basically been known by the other party. Except for some trump cards that were obtained later, the information about the other divine artifacts had been leaked. Sometimes, it might have been leaked by the major races on their own initiative, in order to deter the various races and prevent other races from coveting them. And this divine artifact, the Southern Heavenly Gate, was a powerful spatial divine artifact that the machinery race had found in the Forbidden Darkness Zone. It could teleport countless troops to every corner of the universe. Chapter 2770. Southern Heavenly Gate. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He had heard about the power of this artifact before. If the signal of the universe virtual network could cover every corner of the universe and reach the state of zero delay, the Southern Heavenly Gate would be a door that could lead to every place in the universe. Then, the South Heaven Gate was a Rui Gate that could lead to various places in the universe. Even the void channel of the Abyss world could be easily penetrated by the South Heaven Gate. In the primordial era, the invincible sages of the various races were able to reach the end of the Abyss thanks to the artifact of the mechanical race, the Southern Heavenly Gate. Now that the Southern Heavenly Gate had appeared in the Abyss world again, it was a sign that the various races of the modern universe had united and planned to do something to the Abyss world. Is this the plan of the various races? Xiaoping was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the sages of the modern universe had already decided to attack the Abyss world before the demons of the Abyss world began to attack the Abyss world. However, he didn't know what the invincible sages of the various races were planning. After all, it was definitely not a good idea to fight these demons in the Abyss world. If one stayed in this place for too long, one would probably be eroded by the power of the Abyss. This was not a world that the beings of the modern universe could stay in for a long time. Rumbled before Xiaoping could figure out what was going on, the Southern Heavenly Gate opened. From the end of the Southern Heavenly Gate, invincible sages appeared one after another. They were all absolute powerhouses from the various peak races. Among them, Xiaoping sensed that the Xiaoyao Patriarch, Primeval Patriarch, Patriarch Kong Kong, Patriarch North Sea, and other invincible sages of the human race had also appeared in this battle. Although not all the invincible sages of the various races had come for this attack, most of the invincible sages had participated in this attack. Terrifying auras of the laws shook the heavens and the earth, affecting the laws of the entire Abyss continent. It trembled continuously as if the Abyss continent was about to be shattered. All the power of the Abyss was repelled by the domains of these invincible sages. It seemed that they were using their own domains to resist the will of the entire Abyss world. Even though the resistance was not very long, it was enough to maintain it for a period of time. As long as they were not eroded by the power of the Abyss during this period, they could do a lot of things. Damn it. Ants of the modern universe actually dared to invade the Abyss world. How audacious of them. They are seeking their own deaths. We haven't even invaded the modern universe yet and they actually dared to come in. Their guts are simply boundless. Damn it. Damn it. Earlier we even sealed those glorious sun demons and had them fall into a deep slumber. They won't be able to wake up anytime soon. Otherwise we would have been able to make them suffer. How could there be such a coincidence? Could it be that the rebellion of the bright sun demon was caused by the saints of the modern universe? I'm not sure. If it was really done by the saints of the modern universe, then our Abyss world has been deeply invaded by these saints of the modern universe. We must investigate this matter thoroughly. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's repel these invaders first. We can't let them behave atrociously in our Abyss world and cause our Abyss continent to suffer huge losses. The Abyssal Kings flew into a rage. They sensed that many invincible sages in the real universe had actually joined forces to invade their Abyssal world. This was like a vicious slap to their faces. Before they could even start their invasion, these saints of the modern universe had already begun to invade them. This was simply preposterous. This reminded them of the great humiliation they had suffered in the abyss during the ancient times. At the same time they were half dead with anger. They recalled the rebellion of the Bright Sun demons not long ago, which almost caused the abyss continent to disintegrate. They had expended a lot of effort to make those Bright Sun demons fall into a deep slumber. However, they were now in a difficult position. After all, the strength of dozens of Bright Sun demons was imaginable. They were definitely earth-shattering combat power. Now that they were in a deep slumber, it was difficult for them to borrow the strength of the Bright Sun demons. After all, even if they unsealed the Bright Sun demons now, it would probably take some time. Most importantly, before they sealed the Bright Sun demons were extremely furious at them. Who knew if these enraged Bright Sun demons would be friends or foes after the seal was unsealed? They did not dare to take such a huge risk at this time. Therefore this suggestion could only be put aside for now. Without the help of the Bright Sun demons, they were also facing great pressure this time. It was no wonder that they suspected that there was an inexplicable cause and effect relationship between these two matters. Even so, they could not let the sages from the main universe cause trouble in the abyss. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At that instant, they flew out from different parts of the abyss continent and charged at the undefeatable saints of the South Heaven Gate. They did not conceal their murderous intent at all. They immediately attacked with their strongest moves, leaving no room for mercy. Many invincible sages walked out of the South Heaven Gate one after another. What a disgusting place. It's filthy, stinky, and rotten. I wouldn't want to come here if it weren't for these guys trying to invade the main universe. The one who spoke was an invincible saint from the demon race. He looked at his surroundings in disgust. To the beings of the myriad races in the universe, the abyss world was simply a land of death. It was filled with evil and decaying aura. It was an instinctive disgust. Even the invincible sages could not avoid the instinctive feeling. Cut the crap. We're here to deal with these brats. We have to stop the abyssal emperors for an hour, an invincible sage from the elemental tribe said in a deep voice. An invincible saint of the elementals said in a low, muffled voice. He clenched his fists and emanated a murderous aura. His words seemed to resonate with the void elemental laws. The situation is better than expected. There were dozens of demigod-level Bright Sun demons in the abyss world. They seem to be in a deep slumber, which greatly reduces the pressure on us. Countless streams of data flickered in the eyes of an invincible sage from the machine race. He seemed to be observing the information of the void world. Nothing could escape his search. This is interesting. What are these demon brats trying to do? They made the Bright Sun demons fall into a deep slumber. Is it some kind of scheme? Another invincible sage squinted. He instinctively sensed that something was wrong with this place. They were prepared for the greatest risk in the plan, such as facing dozens of Bright Sun demons and the abyssal emperors at the same time. However, the Bright Sun demons had fallen into a deep slumber, which greatly benefited them. It reduced the pressure on them. Chapter 2771. It might not be a conspiracy, but all of this is arranged by the Lord. Under the light of the Lord, everything will be fine, an invincible saint from the angel race said. It had 12 pairs of wings on its body, and a halo of wisdom appeared on its head. Its body emitted a holy light as if it had formed a sacred domain around it. Its face revealed a pious aura, and its will was incomparable. Angel feathers fell down, seemingly purifying the soil of the abyss. Wherever this sacred domain went, all sins were purified and disappeared. No. All of this is karma. From karma to cause, from cause to effect, from cause to effect. All of this is destined. Just as I have heard, just as Tathagata has come. A Buddha held a lotus in his hand and smiled benevolently. It seemed that under the illumination of his Buddha's light, all lives were converted to Buddhism, yearning for mercy and entering the pure land of ultimate bliss. Umph. The invincible saint from the angel race snorted coldly, and his killing intent soared. If there was anyone in the entire universe that the angel race hated the most, it would undoubtedly be these Buddhas. Because of the battle between domains and beliefs, it was simply a battle to the death. All heretics would be killed. Benefactor, your killing intent is too strong. Why don't you convert to Buddhism? Only then will you be able to enjoy eternal peace. Put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. The Buddha smiled and guided patiently, as if he wanted this angel to convert to Buddhism. Courting death. The eyes of the invincible saint from the angel race flashed coldly, and his killing intent surged. Rumble, the sacred domain of the angel race and the domain of the Buddhas collided. It was like a battle between the domains of beliefs. Countless angels and countless Buddhas fought each other, and clanging sounds rang out. Enough. At this moment, an invincible saint from the Fey race made a move, using the Fey law. In an instant, the attacks of the two invincible saints were quelled, and all the aftershocks were eliminated. Amit Ba. The Buddha put his palms together and immediately stopped. Lord, please forgive my recklessness. The invincible saint from the angel race also held the cross in his hand. However, the two sides only collided slightly, and they didn't start fighting. After all, they knew what was important. It doesn't matter if there's a conspiracy or not. What's important is whether our plan will succeed or not. At this moment, an invincible demon saint narrowed his eyes. To be honest, let the North Sea saint of the human race handle this matter. He's just a kid. Isn't it a little risky to let him be in charge of such an important matter? Once it fails, it won't be a joke. There won't be a next time. It stared at Dark North Saint beside it with a scrutinizing look. Clearly, it had placed its target on Dark North Saint. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The eyes of the other invincible saints all fell on Dark North Saint. Dark North Saint was a living fossil compared to Xia Ping and the other youngsters. However, to these sages who had lived since ancient times, he was just a young man. In fact, he couldn't even be considered a child. In terms of experience, he wasn't even worth mentioning. However, even so, the saints did not care about age. Instead, they cared about strength. This was a world where there was no seniority in learning. To be honest, no matter how young Dark North Saint was, the fact that he could join their camp and participate in this plan was enough to prove his strength. He was an existence that stood at the peak of the universe. It's fine. Dark North Saint may be young, but his strength cannot be underestimated. I'm not worried about letting him be in charge of the plan. Moreover, he's the youngest invincible saint among us. The Abyssal Kings won't notice his existence. Most importantly, this concerns the fate of all the races in the universe. I've already considered everything. I won't do anything rash. Patriarch Void Sky smiled. Interesting. Looks like this kid's strength isn't simple. He actually received such praise from you, Patriarch Void Sky. I wonder what kind of trump card he has. An invincible insect saint cackled. His eyes pierced through the void as if he wanted to dissect Dark North Saint's secrets. Just help me block the Abyssal Kings. Don't go looking for death. Leave the rest to me. Dark North Saint stood up and said calmly. Young man, you've got guts. How dare you talk to me like that? An ancestor of an ancient species clenched his fists. His eyes burned with fighting spirit, as if he wanted to fight Dark North Saint. Don't look for trouble. Yuanshire ancestor said faintly, you can fight if you want. The Abyssal Kings are here. They're not as friendly as us humans. If you lose, you'll die for real. Old thing, I won't die even if you die. But now is indeed not the time to fight with you. Let's take care of the Abyssal Kings first. To be honest, I haven't fought with them for a long time. I don't know if they've retreated. With a swoosh, the ancestor of an ancient species flew out with a flash. Do it. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master said in a deep voice. Swoosh, swoosh. The moment he said that, countless invincible realm sages and ancestral masters from the major races in the modern universe flew out of the southern heavenly gate without saying anything and scattered everywhere. Rumble, in an instant the void exploded. This was a battle between demigods. In an instant, the laws of the void were completely shattered and terrifying explosions were produced. Everything in all directions was blown up. Damn bastards of the modern world. How dare you come to the abyss? Die. Kill them. Don't let any of them escape. Since they dare to come to the end of the abyss, they must be prepared to die here. Idiot bastards of the modern world, if I don't kill you today, I'll kill myself in the name of the abyss. The Abyssal Kings roared, completely enraged. It was hard to imagine how angry they were right now. They used all their abyssal techniques with all their might. Ancestral Master, I'm leaving. Seeing this, Dark North Saint cupped his hands at the Xiaoyao Ancestral Master and the other human Ancestral Masters. Well, be careful. Don't let other Abyssal Kings find you. We can only hold on for 1 hour. If you can't come back, you'll have to stay here. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master nodded. That's enough. With a whoosh, Dark North Sage's figure flashed and disappeared from the void as if he had never been there in the first place. No Abyssal King noticed that an invincible realm sage had disappeared. Okay, it's time for me to move my muscles. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master clenched his fists, and his bones crackled as if resonating with the laws of the void. Each sound seemed to cause the laws of the void to explode. Third Sect Master. Chapter 2772. What a big scene. At this moment, Xia Ping, who was hiding in the forbidden abyss, could also sense what was happening outside through the power of his divine sense. He could see what was happening at the southern heavenly gate. Of course, he was not very clear about the specific details, but it was enough to know the general situation. Obviously, the invincible sages of the various races had joined forces and made this plan today. They launched an attack on the Abyss World, and at the same time they caught the Abyss World off guard. At this moment, the sky above the Abyss continent was filled with invincible sages, and they were fighting to the death with each other. Right, I wonder if this demon lord will make a move? Xia Ping narrowed his eyes and stared at the old man under the mysterious tree in front of him. To be honest, if the old man did not leave this place, it would be difficult for him to snatch the remaining divine artifact fragment. However, even though such a big thing had happened, the mysterious old man was still sitting cross-legged on the tree, resting with his eyes closed, as if he did not care about what had just happened at all. Whoosh! At this moment, there was a ripple in the void as if a void door had opened. Immediately, a figure walked out of the void door and came directly in front of the mysterious old man. What? It's Master. Xia Ping's pupils contracted. He could see that the figure that suddenly appeared in the forbidden abyss was Dark North Saint. He seemed to be very familiar with the way and directly came to the forbidden abyss. Immediately he was very excited, and he restrained his aura and fluctuations even more, lest his master and the mysterious old man notice. Dark North Saint appeared in front of the old man. He frowned and looked at the black tree in front of him, clearly showing some fear. However, he quickly restrained his emotions, looked at the old man and said, "Master." Boom. With just these two words, the black-robed old man, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. His aura immediately changed dramatically, as if the entire Abyss continent was violently shaken. His eyes were empty without eyeballs and his whole body was black like a black hole. No light could be reflected from his eyes, as if they were a devil's nest that devoured endless darkness. Just a glance would make one feel as if their soul was being devoured. It was extremely terrifying. "Master, it's been a long time." The black-robed elder spoke. His voice was hoarse as if he hadn't spoken for a very long time. Every word he spoke contained an extraordinary demonic nature, like a golden rule. If it was a life form with a weak will, just hearing these words would cause their soul to completely collapse, and they would enter a state of madness. Their entire body would degenerate into an abyssal demonic creature. It really is Patriarch Jianghu. Xia Ping, who was hiding on the side, was shocked. Although he had guessed it before, it was only after hearing his master say these words that he confirmed his guess. The mysterious old man in front of him was the founder of the Universe sect who had been missing for a long time, Universe Ancestor. However, why did this Universe Ancestor appear in the Abyss World? What exactly happened? At this moment he was simply full of doubts. "What's biming?" Patriarch Jianghu opened his eyes and looked at Dark North Saint. A hint of emotion appeared in his cold voice. "It's been a long time. I didn't expect you to have grown to such a level. You even have the ability to talk to me?" He looked at Dark North Saint indifferently. "Master, I'm here to take you back. It's time." Dark North Saint cupped his hands. "Take me back?" Hearing this, Patriarch Jianghu chuckled. "After waiting for so long, the human race finally remembered me? Unfortunately, it's too late. I can't go back. I know you have resentment in your heart. Back then, the human race sent you into the Abyss World as a spy to find out the true secrets of the Abyss World and avoid the next Abyss War. During this period, the human race didn't give you much help. I'm afraid you've suffered a lot during this period." Dark North Saint raised his head and looked at Patriarch Jianghu. "What?" Xia Ping was shocked when he heard these words. Although he knew that there must be a big secret, he didn't expect such a secret to be so shocking. Patriarch Jianghu was actually a spy sent by the human race into the Abyss World. However, thinking about it carefully, it was normal. The demons of the Abyss World could lurk in the modern universe as spies, so the human race could naturally send people to the Abyss World as spies to find out all the secrets and monitor every move of the Abyss. The problem was that the Abyss World was not suitable for the human race to live in for a long time. He didn't know how Patriarch Jianghu was able to do this and hide from the demons of the Abyss. After all, not everyone was like him, who had the bloodline of the demon god and was immune to the erosion of the Abyss Devil Chi. "Yes, I entered the Abyss World because of the human race's arrangement. They wanted me to step into the Abyss World as a spy. The reason why they asked me to be a spy was because I have the bloodline of a half-human and half-demon, so I'm immune to the erosion of the Abyss Devil Chi. Therefore, I became the best candidate to go undercover in the Abyss world. Patriarch Chen said lightly, revealing an earth-shattering secret. Half-human and half-demon bloodline. So that was it. Hearing this, Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He didn't expect Patriarch Chen to have such a background. However, if he had the bloodline of a half-human and half-demon, it was indeed possible to resist the erosion of the Abyss Devil Chi. After all, Patriarch Chen originally had a bloodline from the demons of the Abyss. The problem was that it was almost impossible for a human to have children with demons of the Abyss. After all, they were two different species just like pigs and dogs. It was impossible for them to have children. However, this problem was not absolute. If both the man and the woman reached the Sage Realm, they could easily change the genetic structure in their bodies. With the help of cosmic wonders, they might be able to have children. In any case, the birth of a half-human and half-demon bloodline must be an extremely difficult thing. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was a miracle. Life with such a bloodline was probably very rare in the entire universe. If it was really common, it would have been everywhere on the streets. But until now, Xiaoping had rarely heard of it, almost unheard of it. Obviously, such a bloodline was extremely secret even among the higher-ups of the human race. It would not be known by ordinary sages, nor would it be easily spread out. Sogu Reading Website. Chapter 2773. Hearing Ancestor Qingquan's narration, Dark North Saint did not speak. In fact, before coming to the Abyss world, he had already heard the news from the human ancestor and knew the ins and outs. Although I know that this is a very dangerous job and may not be rewarding, I still agreed because this is for the future of the human race. I have no regrets. Ancestor Qingquan said, later I entered the Abyss and experienced countless hardships. I climbed up step by step, inquired about countless secrets of the Abyss world and passed them back. Originally, I thought that the task was almost completed. Unfortunately, tens of thousands of years have passed, millions of years have passed, billions of years have passed, countless years have passed, and all the information passed back has disappeared. I have become the demon lord of the Abyss world, but you still haven't closed the net. He looked at Dark North Saint indifferently. Xiaoping next to him. To be honest, he somewhat understood Ancestor Qingquan. As a spy of the human race, he worked hard to be a spy in the Abyss world in order to complete the task. Unfortunately, the harder he worked, the more he found that he couldn't get away. He was too capable and subdued countless demons, and a group of Abyss kings submitted to him. In order to save his life in the Abyss world, Ancestor Qingquan naturally used all his skills and went through a narrow escape. Unexpectedly, in the end he became the boss of the Abyss world and the task was not over yet. He was the only one who could be a spy at his level. At this time, Ancestor Qingquan probably gave up returning to the human world and being a human. So now we are here. Dark North Saint said in a deep voice, looking at his master Ancestor Qingquan. So it's too late. Ancestor Qingquan looked at Dark North Saint and sighed. There is no way for me to turn back now. You were my disciple back then, and I will not kill you for the sake of the relationship between us. Now go. If you leave now, you still have a chance to survive. If you wait for me to take action, none of you will be able to leave the Abyss world alive. A faint killing intent exuded from his body, almost pervading the Abyss void in all directions, penetrating every corner of the void. It was simply terrifying. Even Xiaoping, who was hiding in the depths of the void, could feel the terrifying killing intent from Ancestor Qingquan. It seemed to contain a trace of divinity and supreme power. Master, are you not Ancestor Qingquan anymore? Could it be that your mind has already been eroded by this abyssal demonic tree and you've been possessed by it? Dark North Saint narrowed his eyes and stared at Patriarch Qingquan, as if trying to figure out the secret of his power. At the same time, he looked fearfully at the mysterious, abyss tree behind him. In reality, this tree that was born in the deepest part of the abyss was the greatest secret of the Abyss world. It was also the enemy that countless races and worlds feared the most. It was a tree that could destroy worlds. In the primordial age, this tree had appeared once and killed a large number of invincible sages. But at that time, the abyssal demonic tree was only in its infancy, and its power had not grown to its peak state. But now it was different. It had completely reached the mature stage. This was a demonic tree that was born from the will of the Abyss. It was terrifying beyond compare. It had absorbed the power of 18 god corpses to grow, and it had also received the power of the Abyss. It could be said to be the ultimate weapon of the Abyss. In the primordial era, One of the reasons why all the races in the universe couldn't exterminate the abyss fiendish demons was because of the abyssal demon tree. The myriad races had sent spies into the abyss world to investigate the secrets of the abyssal demonic tree, to find a way to deal with it and to find its weakness. Unfortunately, no one knew the true secret of the abyssal demonic tree. However, this secret was finally discovered by the human race not long ago, and it immediately alarmed all the races in the world. The abyssal demon tree was a demon seed, the ultimate weapon of the abyss. The abyss world's invasion of the modern universe was completely different from before. If it was the primordial era, then it would be countless demons swarming out of the abyss world and waging a great war with all the races in the universe. They fought to the death, causing countless planets and continents to crumble and blood to flow like rivers. If that was all, the myriad of races were still confident. After all, such a long time had passed, and their battle prowess was different from the past. They were more than 10 times stronger than they were in the primordial era. Even if they encountered an invasion from the abyss demons, they would be able to cripple them. However, it was different now. The real plan of the abyss demons was to activate the abyssal demonic tree and use it as the core as a demon seed to invade the entire modern universe. With the abyssal demonic tree as a stronghold, its roots, leaves and trunk would erode that place into the abyss world and completely transform it. If the abyssal demonic tree grew to the size of the universe, its roots would extend to every corner of the modern universe. At that time, the entire modern universe would be transformed into a second abyss world, filled with terrifying abyssal demon chi. This plan was simply a plan to exterminate all races. Once the abyssal demons' plan succeeded, all the races in the universe would die because it was impossible for them to live in an environment like the abyss world. Therefore, no matter what, they had to destroy this plan and destroy the abyssal demonic tree. This was a plan that was many times more vicious than the invasion of the primordial era. Dark North, you're wrong. I'm both the demon lord and the ancestor of heaven and earth. The two have long merged into one. I'm in you and you're in me, the ancestor of heaven and earth said calmly. Fine. Since you don't want to leave, I'll personally send you on your way. Anyway, all the races in the universe will die sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. Boom. At this moment, Patriarch Jianghu stood up from the ground. The world shook, the sun and the moon dimmed, and countless abyssal laws trembled. The entire abyssal continent rumbled and everything shook. Crack, crack, the abyssal demonic tree behind the ancestor of heaven and earth shook even more, surging with endless abyssal demon chi. It seemed as if there were billions of resentful spirits and demons roaring inside the trunk. The terrible abyssal demon chi spread out and eroded the void in all directions. Vaguely, dense chains of abyssal laws appeared on the ancestor of heaven and earth. The abyssal demon chi condensed into many abyssal laws and penetrated the spacetime. Master, I'd like to test your abilities again. Dark North Saint stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He was still as unmoved as a mountain. Oh, it seems that after not seeing you for a long time, you dare to say such words to me. Then let me see what you're capable of. The ancestor of heaven and earth looked at Dark North Saint calmly. He punched through the void, and the void around him was instantly blasted apart. Sogu website. Chapter 2774. Meanwhile, in another place near the southern heavenly gate, the invincible saints of all the races and the abyss kings were locked in battle, and both sides were locked in a fierce battle. Spatial cracks and explosions were everywhere. The entire abyssal continent was in a mess with smoke everywhere. Are you sure you want Dark North to face the Demon Lord alone? Although the Demon Lord used to be the Heaven and Earth Patriarch, his body merged with the abyssal demonic tree long ago. I'm afraid that he's fallen into the abyss and can't turn back. Empyrean Patriarch sent a voice transmission through Divine Sense, expressing his concern. If Dark North Saint died in the hands of the Demon Lord, it would be a heavy blow to the human clan. He had to worry about it. It's okay. Even though the Demon Lord isn't a human anymore, Dark North has no need to fear the Demon Lord with his strength. At least, he won't die in the Demon Lord's hands, Xiaoyao Patriarch said with a faint smile. What do you mean? The Demon Lord isn't a simple figure. I'm afraid that the Demon Lord is the being closest to the gods in the entire universe. If not for the restriction of the laws of the universe, he would have become a god long ago. Dark North has just reached the demigod realm. How can he not fear the Demon Lord? Empyrean Patriarch frowned. You don't know this. Xiaoyao Patriarch said faintly. Dark North received the inheritance of a powerful god and inherited the god's power, unyielding. This power is extremely powerful. During the battle, no matter how strong the enemy is, he won't die. No matter how severe the wound is, he will recover instantly. That's why Dark North can't die. Power? Unyielding? Fuck. Isn't it invincible? Who can kill him? Even though Empyrean Patriarch was experienced and knowledgeable, he couldn't help but curse out loud. He was dumbfounded. No. This power isn't invincible. The Xiaoyao ancestral master shook his head and said, although the wounds keep healing during the battle, they are hidden and will erupt instantly after the battle. If the wounds are too serious, they will sleep until the end of the world. Moreover, if he were to face a stronger opponent, he would only barely be able to guarantee that he wouldn't die. He would still be suppressed and unable to fight back. If the opponent is proficient in sealing spells, he can probably seal Dark North completely. This power has a big limitation and weakness. Bullshit. Hearing that, Patriarch Kong Kong could not help but roll his eyes. You're really trying to take advantage of me. You're already very strong, alright? In a battle against someone of the same level, you're practically invincible. Who would be foolish enough to fight against an enemy who is many times stronger than them? Furthermore, what sealing technique? As long as he was careful, wouldn't he be able to avoid it? This isn't a weakness at all, it's just a method to deal with the enemy. Haha, in short, Biming will be fine. Don't worry about that. The Xiaoyao ancestral master smiled. With this kind of ability, it's no wonder you agreed to let Dark North take action personally. Hearing this, Patriarch Empyrean finally understood Patriarch Xiaoyao's decision. Originally, he didn't agree with this plan. After all, it was too risky and might cause the death of an unrivaled human saint. To be honest, which peak race would be willing to let their race's invincible combat power fall in the abyss? There was absolutely no benefit to it. However, if Dark North had such an ability, then it would be a different story. In any case, we will complete our mission and Dark North will complete her own. That is enough. The Xiaoyao ancestral master said in a deep voice. It's just a piece of cake. These Abyss Kings won't be able to take one step out of here. The Demon Master won't send any reinforcements. A cold light flashed in Patriarch Empyrean's eyes. On the other hand, in the Abyss Forbidden Place. Bang, bang. In an instant, Dark North Saint and Ancestor of Heaven and Earth began to fight. Their speed was so fast that even divine senses could not detect the speed of their fight. With their bodies as the center, the space and time within tens of millions of kilometers seemed to be twisted, and everything seemed to be in a state of stillness. Although only 1 second had passed in the outside world, thousands of years had passed in the battle area. Almost in an instant, no one knew how many moves they had exchanged. This was a battle between two laws, which had almost reached the limit of a saint. Vaguely, it seemed that two sectors were colliding. Every time they collided, horrifying destructive power burst out and roared, tearing the void apart. Awesome. Xia Ping, who was hiding in the dark, widened his eyes and couldn't help but exclaim. He had thought that his master, Dark North Saint, who had just entered the invincible realm not long ago, should be weaker than these veteran invincible saints. However, he didn't expect that Dark North Saint's strength was far beyond his imagination. He wasn't much weaker than many veteran invincible saints, and his understanding of the laws was even higher. Even though Dark North Saint didn't have enough experience during the battle, with his super talent, he digested and absorbed the laws in a short time and seemed to be improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom. In the blink of an eye they collided again. Then they separated again and faced each other from a distance. At that moment, Patriarch Jianghu narrowed his eyes and stared at Dark North Saint. Interesting. It's only been a while, but your cultivation base has improved to such an extent. If I'm not mistaken, you're probably the only monstrous genius in the entire human race. Dark North Saint, Dark North Saint. Far from it. There are many people in the human clan who are more powerful than me. Dark North Saint said lightly. Ah. Patriarch Jianghu didn't deny it. Your speed of progress is very unusual. Did you get the inheritance of a god? He looked at Dark North Saint and said tentatively. Let's fight and you'll know. Dark North Saint was unmoved. Humph, this is not the place to fight. Come with me to another place. With a boom, Patriarch Jianghu waved his hand and immediately moved the stars and reversed the universe. The void was shrouded, and in an instant he and Dark North Saint were moved to another place to fight. Obviously, he also knew that if he really fought seriously, the forbidden area of the abyss would be destroyed, and it might hurt the body of the abyssal demon tree. The loss outweighed the gain. Most importantly, he couldn't wake up the ghosts in the forbidden area of the abyss. Otherwise, he would touch the taboo in the forbidden area, which was many times more serious than the attack of all the clans in the world. Boom. The next second, Patriarch Qingquan and Dark North Saint disappeared from this place. Are they gone? Xia Ping, who was hiding nearby, sensed the surroundings and found that Patriarch Qingquan and Dark North Saint had teleported to somewhere far away. It seemed that they were at the end of the distant space and time. In short, the battlefield between the two sides had long been far away from the forbidden area of the abyss. Even with the power of his divine consciousness, there was no way for him to know where the two had gone. Sogu website. Chapter 2775. Are they really gone? Xia Ping blinked. He scanned the area with his divine sense dozens of times, but he still couldn't sense Ancestor of Heaven and North Sea Saint's aura. There was only the abyssal demon tree and the sacred corpses in the forbidden area. Apart from that, there was nothing else. This is a good opportunity. Xia Ping touched his chin. After Ancestor of Heaven and Earth disappeared, wouldn't this place be free for him to go? Moreover, this was where the demon lord was. Who knew how many good things were left here? The abyssal demon tree seemed to be very terrifying, emitting a terrible aura. However, according to his perception, the abyssal demon tree actually had no intelligence. Its brain should be the demon lord. Unfortunately, the demon lord had already left this place. It was estimated that the demon lord would not be able to return in a short time. Of course, he still had to be careful. If the movement was too big, perhaps the demon lord would give up a certain degree of sacrifice in return. Let's try to see if I can get the divine artifact fragment first. Thinking of this, Xia Ping's heart moved and he immediately took action. Whoosh. In an instant, his Kunping doppelganger merged into the void and quickly approached the abyssal demon tree without a sound. The abyssal demon tree still didn't seem to notice it. Dong. In the next second, Xia Ping grabbed the god artifact fragment with lightning speed and placed it into his space ring. He did not cause any disturbances at all. It seemed that the divine artifact fragment was nothing to the abyssal demon tree. It was just an ordinary stone. It didn't seem to care about it at all. By the way, I wonder if the sacred corpses can be taken away? Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. He could feel that the 18 sacred corpses contained a huge amount of energy. Even if the world tree had swallowed countless corpses before, it could not compare to the energy of one of the sacred corpses. After all, it was not only the difference in energy but also the difference in quality. A wisp of divine power was much more powerful than magic power. The two were not on the same level. If the world tree could swallow the power of the 18 sacred corpses, he didn't know to what extent it would evolve. Maybe it would really become the first god in the universe. Thinking of this, he gently reached out and tried to take away one of the sacred corpses. Boom. However, as soon as Xia Ping's hand approached, he instantly sensed an extremely dangerous aura, as though the abyssal demonic tree was about to wake up. A tyrannical and terrifying abyssal power filled the vicinity of the god's corpse. Numerous restrictive arrays were set up in all directions, as if they were the restrictions of the gods. Even with the Kunpeng's abilities, it wasn't that easy to invade. Of course, if one wanted to obtain the god's corpse, they would not only have to pass through the restrictive barrier. More importantly, the abyssal demonic tree's roots had already permeated every god's corpse. It was as if these roots had replaced the blood vessels of the god corpse and become a part of it. If he wanted to take away the sacred remains, he would probably have to alarm the abyssal demonic tree and cut off its roots. This would probably instantly enrage the demon master, and unpredictable danger would occur. Looks like there's no way to take away the sacred remains. Xia Ping felt that it was a pity. He weighed the pros and cons. Although the immortal's corpse was very precious, it was not worth the risk. If he could advance to the demigod realm, he would not have to worry about the demon lord's revenge. But it was a pity that he was only at the immemorial ancient full cultivation state right now, and had yet to reach the point where he was invincible under the heavens. Therefore he still had to be more cautious. At the same time, in the cave where Xia Ping's main body was located in the outer area of the Abyss Forbidden Area. Suddenly Xia Ping's heart shook. The tree of world in the depths of his sea of consciousness trembled slightly, and a huge stream of information was instantly transmitted to his soul. After a while the information stopped. The tree of world also sensed the existence of the abyssal demonic tree through the power of the Kunpeng's clone, so it contacted Xia Ping. I see. You want to get the power of the god's corpse and even want to swallow the abyssal demonic tree? Xia Ping squinted his eyes. He did not expect the tree of world to be so bold. Although the tree of world was the origin of all wood and could be called the ancestor of plants, the abyssal demonic tree was not simple. It was the ultimate weapon of the abyss, and it had integrated 18 gods' corpse and the power of many abyssal laws. It could be said that the abyssal demonic tree was not as simple as a plant. It was a terrifying abyssal monster, just that it was in the form of a tree. If the Tree of World was at its peak, it would probably have no problem swallowing the abyssal demonic tree. However, if the Tree of World wanted to swallow the abyssal demonic tree now, it would be like a snake swallowing an elephant. It was almost impossible. Buzz, the Tree of World shook and flashed with a faint emerald green light. It seemed like an emerald green seed had emerged from the depths of its body. It contained rich world origin energy and a huge power of laws. This is your seed, the seed of the Tree of World? Xiaoping squinted his eyes. He found that the emerald green seed had fallen into his hands. This seed contained a considerable part of the Tree of World's origin energy. In order to condense this seed, the Tree of World seemed to have consumed a lot of origin energy. At the moment, the Tree of World was unprecedentedly weak. Obviously, it was not easy to condense such a seed. It needed to pay a huge price. Buzz, the Tree of World shook again and transmitted a message into Xiaoping's Sea of Consciousness. I see. This is the parasitic seed of the Tree of World. It is equivalent to your clone. If this parasitic seed is integrated into the abyssal demonic tree's body, it can silently parasitize the abyssal demonic tree and take the opportunity to swallow the abyssal demonic tree's power. Sensing this message, Xiaoping's eyes suddenly lit up. If this could really be done, the abyssal demonic tree would definitely die. It would definitely become the Tree of World's food and a part of its energy. But are you sure this is reliable? It won't be discovered by the abyssal demonic tree, right? Xiaoping asked cautiously. Buzz, the Tree of World shook again. Its branches swayed confidently, indicating that this parasitic seed was where its origin was. Once it was integrated into the abyssal demonic tree, it would definitely not be discovered. Even the gods would not be able to discover it. That's good. Let's go and give it a try. Xiaoping touched his chin. Anyway, it was just a try. Even if it failed, it would not be a big problem. Whoosh. Thinking of this, he did not hesitate and immediately sent his second clone, the Tree of World clone. He took the parasitic seed and entered the inner area of the Forbidden Abyss. Chapter 2776. It didn't take long for Xiaoping's World Tree clone to enter the forbidden area of the abyss. Because he had been here once before, he was already familiar with driving. He knew which place was dangerous and which was not. Even if he encountered some danger, the World Tree clone could easily resist it with its own power. It couldn't do anything to this clone. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, the World Tree clone arrived in front of the Kunpeng clone. The two clones looked at each other. Fuse. In an instant, the World Tree clone and the Kunpeng clone fused together. This was one of the abilities of the clone after it advanced. When the two fused, they would have each other's magic power and power. Their power would also increase by 30%. If the 9 clones fused, their power would increase at a geometric speed. It wasn't as simple as 1 plus 1. This was also the power of this clone technique. Then let's see if this parasitic seed has any effect. Xiaoping touched his chin and took out the parasitic seed that the World Tree had given him. It was an emerald green seed that seemed to contain the infinite mystery and power of the World Tree. Vaguely, the emerald green seed emitted waves of power of the origin law. It seemed to resonate with the void law. It was filled with an unfathomable aura. It seemed that even if the original World Tree died, this seed could grow a second World Tree. Whoosh. He waved his hand and threw the parasitic seed onto the trunk of the abyssal demon tree. The abyssal demon tree didn't seem to have any reaction. It couldn't feel the sound of the parasitic seed's flight at all. Whoosh, under Xiaoping's gaze, the parasitic seed seemed to come to life when it approached the abyssal demon tree. It turned into an emerald green liquid and integrated into the body of the abyssal demon tree. In just an instant, the parasitic seed disappeared in front of Xiaoping. Interesting. Xiaoping's eyes lit up. Due to his special connection with the World Tree, he could feel that the parasitic seed easily integrated into the deepest part of the abyssal demon tree. The emerald green liquid kept squirming, trying to penetrate into the deepest part of the abyssal demon tree. He seemed to see the situation inside the abyssal demon tree. It was a huge sphere of nothingness like a black sun. It was filled with endless abyss devil energy. Just looking at it seemed like the power of the abyss would corrode. It was almost impossible to resist. Countless abyssal law chains appeared inside this huge black sphere, as if they contained the 3,000 laws of the abyss. Countless abyssal law chains intertwined with each other, forming a huge abyssal boundary. Without a doubt, this was the core of the abyssal demon tree. Just looking at the abyssal demon tree's power, Xia Ping's eyes widened in amazement. Just by looking at the abyssal demon tree's origin core, he understood why the abyssal demon tree was so terrifying. This core was like the amalgamation of countless worlds, and contained an enormous amount of abyssal essence power. Even the Green Lotus Hell's essence power couldn't compare to it. The difference was more than 100 times greater than the essence power of the Green Lotus Hell. Moreover, this origin energy was growing at an extremely rapid rate, as if it was constantly devouring the energy of the various worlds. This was simply a demonic tree parasitizing the main body of the abyss. Through this perception, he could also sense the countless roots of this demonic tree deeply rooted in every corner of the abyss world, almost extending to the end of the abyss. Every void of the abyss world had roots of the abyssal demonic tree, as if the void veins of the abyss world were formed by the roots of the abyssal demonic tree. If this abyssal demonic tree was destroyed, the entire abyss world would be heavily damaged. However, it was simply impossible to destroy such a demonic tree with the abyss world as its foundation. It was equivalent to a mortal fighting against the entire universe. One had to know that the vastness of the abyss world was no less than that of the modern universe. The two were the sides of light and darkness. Interesting. This abyssal demonic tree is similar to the world tree. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. He could sense that the principles of the abyssal demonic tree and the world tree were almost the same. The world tree also used the energy of the universe as its foundation, expanding its roots to every corner of the universe. Once it grew to its peak, at that time the world tree would be the universe and the universe would be the world tree. The only difference was that the abyssal demonic tree was born from the abyss world. The universe under its rule was only suitable for the survival of abyssal creatures. It was difficult for other creatures to survive. However, the world tree was different. The universe it was in was extremely suitable for the survival of life in the modern universe. It moved. At this moment, Xia Ping could sense the sincere joy of the parasitic seed. As if it had encountered a superior prey, it sped up its actions. Rumble, in an instant, the parasitic seed silently approached the core of the abyssal demonic tree. As if it was drawn, it instantly integrated into the core. The parasitic seed immediately took root and began to settle in the core. Dense roots of the world tree grew, seemingly extending to a part of the core. As time passed, the roots of the parasitic seed might be able to cover every part of the core of the abyssal demonic tree. Amazing. Xia Ping blinked his eyes. He had seen the power of the world tree. It was indeed a demonic tree that was even more terrifying than the abyssal demonic tree. This seed could be called a true demonic seed. Moreover, this parasitic seed could not only parasitize plants. In fact, it could easily parasitize any life, even the body of a god, and absorb the energy of the god. This was the terrifying part of the parasitic seed. Even when it was parasitizing, it silently produced dense roots of the world tree. Each root was transparent and easily integrated into every corner of the life. At the same time, it would not let the life discover any abnormalities. It slowly replaced every blood vessel in the life. By the time the other party discovered it, it would be too late, and they would have long become a parasite. However, such a parasitic seed could not be condensed casually. Every time it condensed, it would consume most of the world tree's origin energy, and it would take a long time to recover. Therefore, if it was not a particularly valuable creature, the world tree would not be willing to use this method to deal with it. Obviously, the world tree had already felt that the abyssal demonic tree had such value that it was worth paying such a huge price. Moreover, once the world tree devoured the abyssal demonic tree, it did not know what realm it would grow to. Chapter 2777. However, Xia Ping quickly put aside the matter of the parasitic seed because he did not know how long it would take for the parasitic seed to take effect. It could only be said to be a casual move that would only take effect at the critical moment. Now, he could only wait for the parasitic seed to slowly blossom and bear fruit. Right, I wonder what treasures are in that palace. That is the place where the demon lord lives, there should be some treasures. Xia Ping looked at the palace behind the abyssal demon tree. To be honest, he was very curious about this mysterious palace from the beginning. He felt that there might be treasures in it, but with the demon lord guarding it, he could not go there. However, it was different now. The demon lord was being held back by his master, Dark North Saint. This was the best opportunity. If he missed this opportunity, he did not know when he would have to wait. Moreover, he had come to the Abyss Forbidden area with great difficulty, so he could not go back empty-handed. Whoosh. In an instant, Xia Ping's figure flashed, and he used the Kunping magic power to fly towards the palace silently. He arrived in front of the palace in an instant. Interesting, there are no restrictive formations? Xia Ping blinked. He originally thought that this palace would have a powerful restrictive formation. After all, this was the palace where the demon lord lived. One could imagine the defense inside. However, he was wrong. Perhaps it was because this was the demon lord's palace, and the demon lord would be guarding this place at all times. He would be the strongest defense and no thief would be able to get close. Most importantly, this place was the famous forbidden area of the abyss. Ordinary abyss demons would not be able to get close. As for the various races in the modern world, they could not come to this place at the end of the abyss world. After all, even an invincible saint could not resist the erosion of the abyssal demonic energy for a long time. Therefore, considering all these factors, there was no need to build any defensive restrictive formation in the palace where the demon lord resided. In fact, for billions of eras, this place had never been stolen. It was very safe. Oh my god, there are so many divine stones, right? As soon as he entered the palace, Xia Ping's eyes immediately widened. He felt his heart twitch because in front of him was a small mountain of divine stones, exuding a strong divine power. It was as if just taking a breath in this place could allow one's cultivation to improve by thousands of years. One could only imagine how many divine stones were hidden in this place. These god stones were probably collected by the Devil Lord himself from all over the Abyss Forbidden Lands. Wherever it was easy to obtain god stones, the Devil Lord had already dug 3 feet deep. After accumulating for a long time, he had obtained a small mountain of divine stones. Ah, I'm rich. I'm really rich this time. With so many god stones, I can use them however I want. Corinne also sensed this scene through Xia Ping's divine sense, and immediately burst into laughter. He was incomparably excited. Previously, in the outer region of the Forbidden Abyss, just a few dozen divine stones were enough to kill a group of primordial fiendish demons. But now, in this palace there were so many divine stones. It was like a dream. If so many divine stones were to be released to the outside world, who knew how many saints would go crazy over them? It would not be a problem for them to start an earth-shattering war. So many god stones, there are at least 70 to 80 million. Green Ox also couldn't help but tremble for a while. This was definitely an earth-shattering wealth. The wealth obtained before was probably not comparable to the treasures obtained now. This was also something that could not be helped. After all, the Abyss world was still very rich, especially when they also had a relic formed by the fall of a god. The treasures obtained were even more innumerable, and each of them was priceless. All of them are mine. Xia Ping waved his hand, and in an instant, these god stones were unceremoniously put into his space ring. He did not even let go of a little god stone fragment on the ground. He cleaned it up even cleaner than his face. Look, divine artifact fragments, so many divine artifact fragments, at least tens of thousands of pieces. Damn, how many good things did this Devil Lord plunder in this forbidden land? The Abyss Forbidden Lands have been emptied by this guy. It's really too corrupt. I don't know how much of the people's blood and sweat has he eaten. Hurry up and take it away to get rid of the evil for the people. Corinne shouted loudly. That's right. You're right. Plunder everything. Scum like this who plunder the wealth of the people are truly abominable. We're enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens, robbing the rich to help the poor. I believe that those ordinary abyssal demons will definitely be very grateful to us. We're getting rid of a great scourge for the abyss. The Green Ox also felt the same way and nodded repeatedly. He was distressed. He didn't expect the Devil Lord to be such a person. To be honest, at this moment he felt a little distressed for the demons of the abyss world. How could they not be unlucky to have such a boss? He only knows how to plunder the people's blood and sweat all day long. Indeed, money is like a bone-cutting knife. I don't know how many ambitious youths have been corrupted by it. I am afraid that Ancestor Qingquan has fallen because of this. I must help him deal with such an evil thing. Xia Ping also nodded. He was not careless when he took action. Isn't that so? No wonder he stays here all day long and doesn't leave. This guy is a miser staying here to guard the treasures. Corinne deeply felt the same. I was wondering why this old boy was so kind to let so many ancient demons enter the forbidden area of the abyss to train and let them plunder the treasures at will. It turns out that the big ones have been taken away by this guy, and the rest are the leftovers that he doesn't care about. Green Ox despised the stinginess of the Devil Lord. He only knows how to use small profits to bluff people. He doesn't have any magnanimity. Walala, Xiaoping waved his hand, and all the divine artifact fragments in this place were plundered by him. Even the residue on the ground was not spared. They were all good things that were contaminated with divine power, so he couldn't let them go. Moreover, even if these divine artifact fragments couldn't be combined into a new complete divine artifact, their materials were extremely precious and very rare in the universe. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if these divine artifact fragments couldn't be refined into other magic weapons, they could be eaten by the golden slime as materials for other magic weapons. He didn't know to what extent Xiao Jin would evolve after eating the divine artifact fragments, but he reckoned that it wouldn't be a problem for him to become the strongest golden slime since ancient times. After all, from ancient times to the present, no golden slime could eat the divine artifact fragments until they were full. Even the invincible saints weren't so extravagant, nor were they so prodigal. Master, look, there are many palaces inside. They are all the people's blood and sweat that guy has embezzled. They are all rare materials that he has plundered from all over the abyss. Hand them all over, don't be polite with him. Green Ox shouted loudly. He seemed to perceive that there were more treasures hidden inside. Sogu reading website. Chapter 2779. Whoosh. Xiaoping's figure flashed and immediately arrived at another palace. He opened the palace door and took a closer look. Colorful lights flashed inside. It was so dazzling that he could not even open his eyes. My God, there are so many treasures. The Green Ox's eyes widened. Look at what this is. Mystic Lightning Demon Iron, Sky Crimson Demon Copper, Star Pattern Demon Steel, Deep Sea Demon Silver. How many treasures did this guy plunder in the Abyss world? Why did he take all the good stuff? It immediately recognized the origins of the many materials hidden in the palace. The so-called Mystic Lightning Demon Iron was in or born from a mine in the Abyss. It contained powerful lightning origin power and was engraved with dense lightning law patterns. At the same time, it was also eroded by the magic power of the Abyss, causing it to possess terrifying demonic properties. If this Mystic Lightning Demon Iron was used to forge an artifact, it would definitely be a Peerless Sage artifact. It also contained the lightning law origin power and abyssal magic power. There was also the Sky Crimson Demon Copper. It was also a rare ore in the Abyss and was famous in the Abyss world. It was extremely good at conducting magic power and had almost no loss. If this Sky Crimson Demon Copper was used to forge an artifact, it could display the combat power of a sage 100% without any loss of magic power. It could also be compatible with every sage. The Star Pattern Demon Steel was also extremely amazing. It was forged from the famous Star Pattern Stone of the Abyss world. One had to know that the Star Pattern Stone was the core ore of a star. Only one of billions of stars could give birth to such an ore. Contained a huge amount of Star Pattern Demon Steel. 100 of such Star Pattern Demon Steel could be forged into one piece of Star Pattern Demon Steel. One could imagine how precious the Star Pattern Demon Steel was. It was the best material for forging star-type artifacts. There was also the Deep Sea Demon Silver. This was a special ore born from a boundless sea in the Abyss world called the Abyssal Demon Sea. The Abyssal Demon Sea was also a famous danger zone in the Abyss. It was said that countless abyssal monsters lived in that sea. Each of them was extremely powerful. It was one of the most dangerous places in the Abyss. It was equally famous as the Abyss Forbidden Lands. And the Deep Sea Demon Silver was born from that place. Of course, the reason why they needed to mine such ores from the Abyssal Demon Sea and take such a huge risk was definitely worth it. The Deep Sea Demon Silver had such value. If the Deep Sea Magic Silver was attached to the edge of a weapon, such as the edge of a saber or sword, it could instantly increase the sharpness of these weapons by more than 10 times. It had a powerful armor-piercing effect, and ordinary sage-level defensive magic treasures could probably be chopped into scrap metal with a single slash. Most importantly, this deep-sea magic silver was terrifyingly corrosive and poisonous. It was a type of mercury that came from the Abyssal Demon Sea. Regardless of whether it was the demons from the Abyss or the living beings in the modern universe, even if they had reached the sage level and possessed an immortal body, they would not be able to withstand this kind of poison. In less than 3 days the injured sage would be poisoned to death. Hence, such deep-sea magic silver was an extremely important strategic resource in the Abyss. In the primordial era, countless sages in the modern universe had died from the poison of the deep-sea demonic silver. It is indeed a good thing. Xiaoping's eyes lit up when he saw these ores. Without saying anything, he immediately waved his hand and collected all these special ores from the Abyss into his space ring. He didn't even plan to leave some or fragments in this place. Master, there are still a lot of elixirs from the abyss. Hurry up and take them, don't waste them. Seeing that the demon lord isn't someone who takes elixirs all day long, let's reluctantly help him deal with them. Azure Ox shouted. You didn't even let go of the elixirs of the abyss world, isn't that too much? These elixirs are suitable for the demons of the abyss. They are useless for the various races of the modern universe. Eating them won't bring any benefits, instead it will be fatal. What do you want these useless things for? Corinne said in disdain. He could see that each of those elixirs contained a rich amount of abyssal magic power. If an ordinary life form ate them, they might instantly lose their mind and degenerate into an abyssal life form. For ordinary life forms, these elixirs were fatal. Of course, it was different for the demons of the abyss. These elixirs were a great tonic. What do you know? Of course, it's for research. The alchemy techniques of these demons of the abyss are still worth learning. Moreover, even if the various races of the modern universe can't take them, it doesn't mean that Master can't take them. Moreover, the most useless ones are those demons from the hell world. Their bodies are very powerful and won't care about these abyssal magic power. Azure Ox said in disdain. He had already thought of a way to make the best use of everything to ensure that they wouldn't be wasted. Ox, you alchemists are still the best. You can make good use of everything, plucking feathers from geese. I'm afraid that even a pile of shit can be refined into elixirs by you. Corinne sighed with emotion. Hearing these words, the corners of Azure Ox's mouth twitched. He felt that Corinne didn't have anything good to say. Walala, Xiaoping ignored the words of Azure Ox and Corinne. With a wave of his hand, he immediately plundered all the bottles and jars. He didn't plan to leave a single elixir for the demon lord. Because even if he didn't take these elixirs from the abyss, he could still give them to the hell demons. Wow, Master, look, there are magic treasures here, so many magic treasures. My God, how many abyssal magic treasures is this guy hiding? Does he want to rebel? The green ox shouted. He sensed that in the deepest part of this palace, a large number of abyssal weapons were hidden. They were densely stacked together. There were at least hundreds of millions of them, and each of them was extremely powerful. After all, ordinary abyssal weapons couldn't enter the demon lord's eyes at all. Only abyssal magic treasures that had reached a certain level could enter the demon lord's collection room. Rebel? Whoever rebels, that guy is the abyss boss. Corinne said in disdain. It's indeed a bit unusual. If this is the demon lord's treasure house, then these treasures are too outrageous. This is completely a large arsenal. Xiaoping also felt that this treasure house was a bit unusual. I'm afraid that this is not as simple as the demon lord's treasure house. It may be the strategic material center of the abyss demons. It is an arsenal that has been accumulated for countless years in order to wage war against the main universe. That's why there are so many magic treasures here. Azure Ox voiced his guess. It is indeed possible. Xiaoping felt the same way. Only an arsenal could explain why there were so many abyssal magic treasures hidden in this place. Otherwise, ordinary sages wouldn't need to collect so many weapons. Chapter 2780. Could this be the entire arsenal of the abyss world? If that's the case, then the number is too little. Corinne felt that the entire abyss world was so big that it was impossible for it to only have so few weapons. Of course, it's not just an armory. I'm afraid this is just one of them, and it's also the most precious one. That's why the demon lord is here to guard it. The Azure Ox said, Did you see that deep-sea fiendish silver just now? During the primeval times, when the myriad of races were at war with the abyss fiendish devils, they hated these things to the bone and feared them like tigers. However, such precious treasures are still very rare. 1 gram of deep-sea magic silver costs an astronomical price, and there might not even be a lot of it in the entire abyssal demon sea. However, it's like barrels of it are free. It was very emotional. This time they could be considered to have made a fortune. They had practically plundered the most important treasury of the abyss world. They did not know if the abyss demons and demon masters would want to kill their 9 clans after hearing this news. This time they would probably incur the wrath of the entire abyss. But are we really going to loot these magic treasures? I can sense that every abyssal magic treasure on it contains the spiritual imprint of an abyssal demon. If we take these things away, I'm afraid that those abyssal demons will know where we are. Corinne was worried about this. If these abyssal magic treasures appeared in the world of the classic of mountains and seas, with the guidance of the mental imprints of these abyssal magic treasures, the specific location of the classic of mountains and seas might be exposed. Don't worry, it's just the mental imprint of an abyss demon. Master's Hell Golden Crow fire can burn them all to ashes, the Green Bull said confidently. Burnt to ashes? I'm afraid that even the magic treasures themselves will be burned. Moreover, there are so many abyssal magic treasures, at least 100 million of them. How long will it take to burn them? There's no need to do anything else. Corinne felt that this was unreliable. If he waited for Xia Ping to remove the spirit imprint of all the abyssal magic treasures, then the demon lord would have already ended the battle and returned to the treasury. That is indeed a problem. Why don't we just pick some important and precious abyssal magic treasures and leave the rest here? Although it's a bit wasteful, don't take the risk. Green Ox also agreed with Corinne's idea. No, you don't have to do that. You can take away all the treasures here. I won't leave a single one behind. Xia Ping said. Master, could it be that you have a good idea? Corinne and Green Ox both looked at Xia Ping. Did you forget about the Yellow Spring holy water? This is a treasure from the Yellow Spring River. It can wash away all spiritual impurities. Not to mention the spiritual imprint of an abyss demon or a demon lord, even a demon god's spiritual imprint would turn into ashes under the washing of the Yellow Spring holy water. Xia Ping smiled. Yes, I almost forgot, Master still has Yellow Spring's holy water. This is indeed one of the most frightening treasures in the world. Speaking of Yellow Spring's holy water, Corinne and Green Ox couldn't help but reveal a trace of fear. To be honest, artifact spirits like them were most afraid of the Yellow Spring's holy water. If they came into contact with even a drop of it, all their memories would be cleanly washed away, turning them into a blank piece of paper. It was as if he had already died and a new artifact spirit had been born. This was something fatal to any artifact spirit. Even the artifact spirits of God artifacts might not be able to withstand it. Fortunately, there were very few living beings who could obtain the Yellow Spring's holy water. Otherwise, it would definitely cause chaos in the world. However, if these spiritual imprints are removed, it will definitely attract the attention of the demon lord. It's better to take away all these treasures, and after reuniting with my main body, I will use the Yellow Spring's holy water to clean them up, and then quickly leave the abyss world. This way, even if the demon lord knows about this, he can't do anything to us. Xia Ping touched his chin. He had already thought of all the plans. After half an hour, Xia Ping had already plundered all the treasures inside and outside the treasury. All the treasures, no matter big or small, were taken away by him. He also helped to clean up the treasury. It was spotless. It couldn't be helped. He had mysophobia and couldn't bear to see other people's houses dirty. Not bad, it looks much more comfortable now. Xia Ping was very satisfied with his masterpiece. Looking at the empty treasury and the smooth mirror-like floor, his heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. As expected of Master, you are really a good person. You even helped this demon lord who embezzles the people's wealth to clean up. If it were me, I wouldn't care about this kind of thing. Azure Ox stepped forward and flattered. You're welcome, you're welcome. Everyone here is a guest. It's only right to do this kind of thing. Who told me to be the kind of person who can't bear to see other people's houses dirty? This is also one of my few shortcomings. Xia Ping said carelessly. The corners of Corinne's mouth twitched. Why did he feel that doing this was destroying the corpses and erasing the traces of the crime, increasing the difficulty of those abyssal demons chasing them and others? Such a spotless palace, how could those abyssal demons find any clues to track them down? Fingerprints, smells, and so on would all disappear under such a cleaning. With such a skillful method of committing crimes, who knows how many times he had done this kind of thing? Perhaps this habit of liking to clean was cultivated in this way. To be honest, he couldn't remember how many times Xia Ping had plundered other people's treasury. It had happened so many times that he was a little used to it. Oh, by the way, how can a person like me who does things in an above-board manner not leave his name behind? Otherwise, what if someone impersonates me? I have to leave some marks. Xia Ping touched his chin and immediately wrote a few big words on a smooth white wall. Wu Wuti was here. After writing these words, his figure flashed and left the palace. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Not long after, the World Tree clone and the Kunpeng clone left the inner area of the Forbidden Abyss and returned to the outer area. They came to a cave and gathered with the main body. The demon lord shouldn't have discovered that the treasures have been stolen yet. Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. Although these treasures had the demon lord's spiritual imprint on them, the other party was fighting with his master, Dark North Saint. How could he sense the movement of his treasures? Even if he sensed it, the demon lord probably wouldn't be able to do anything at this moment. Forget it, I'd better quickly remove these spiritual imprints and then return to the main universe. Thinking of this, Xiaoping didn't hesitate and immediately put the treasures that he had plundered into the world of the classic of mountains and seas, then piled them up in an open space. Then he took out the Yellow Springs holy water and immediately poured it on these abyssal magic treasures and abyssal materials. Sizzle, in the blink of an eye, these treasures immediately emitted wisps of white smoke, and the extremely stubborn spiritual imprints that were originally engraved on the treasures quickly disappeared. They were completely corroded, leaving nothing behind. Sogu website. Chapter 2781. At this moment, in a different space in the Abyss world, Ancestor of Heaven and Earth and Dark North Saint were fighting in this place. Because this space was extremely sturdy, even if an invincible saint fought here with all his might, it would not affect other places and cause much damage. At this time, although it had not been more than an hour in the outside world because of the distortion of space and time, time was extended. The two of them did not know how many days they had been fighting, and they had killed each other hundreds of millions of times. If it had been an ordinary saint, his magic power would have been exhausted long ago. However, Ancestor of Heaven and Earth was still unharmed, and he did not even breathe. His body still emitted an unfathomable aura of the abyss, like a bottomless black hole. No one knew where his limits were. Dark North Saint had countless bloody wounds all over his body, as if he had turned into a man of blood. A large amount of blood flowed out of his body, but even so, his aura did not weaken at all. I see. Ancestor of Heaven and Earth narrowed his eyes. No wonder you dare to fight me. Did you get the power of a powerful god? Every time you receive a fatal injury you will recover in an instant. If not for this ability you would have died many times. He looked at Dark North Saint. To be honest, if it was an ordinary saint, he would have crushed him long ago. Even if it was an invincible saint of the same level, he could still seriously injure or even kill him. But Dark North Saint was different. Even if he used countless methods, it was difficult to kill this guy. His attacks would always be blocked by some powerful divine power in his body, and he would recover instantly. This was simply an immortal body. If this was the case, there was no point in continuing to fight. He also thought of a problem. This guy clearly had an immortal body, but he still came to fight him. Perhaps there was a conspiracy, or perhaps it was to delay him so that other saints could carry out other plans. Thinking of this, he did not want to continue to delay. There was no need to drag his plan down and affect the overall situation because of this guy who could not be killed. Forget it, I won't argue with you for now. Although this ability of yours seems to be unkillable, there are many ways to deal with it in the abyss. When I am ready, you will die for sure. Ancestor of Heaven and Earth wanted to turn around and leave. Master, why are you leaving so quickly? I haven't had enough fun yet. Is this all you have? You want to destroy the modern universe with just this bit of strength? You're too naive. With a whoosh, Dark North Saint's figure flashed and immediately stood in front of Ancestor Qingquan, not letting him leave. His task was to stall Ancestor Qingquan and not let him get in the way. If a terrifying sage like the Demon Lord appeared on the battlefield, the damage caused would be great, and it would definitely affect the situation of the battle. As expected, you want to stop me? What is your plan for coming to the abyss? Patriarch Qingquan narrowed his eyes and stared at Dark North Saint. Of course there's a plan. Otherwise, do you think we spent so much effort to build a void channel that connects the modern universe and the abyss just to play house here? Dark North Saint said matter-of-factly. You're wasting your energy. No matter what you do, it's all futile. Even if you can buy some time, the modern universe will definitely be destroyed by the abyss. Ancestor Qingquan said lightly. How would we know if we don't fight? The Dark North Saint was unfazed. What a difficult guy to deal with. Ancestor Qingquan was a little annoyed. He was entangled by this guy in this place and he didn't even know what was happening in the abyss. He originally thought that he could quickly get rid of this guy, but it was obvious that Dark North Saint's strength and ability were beyond his imagination. It was because of this negligence that the abyss was passive. Suddenly, Ancestor Qingquan's face changed. He felt that many of the abyssal magic treasures that he had left his spiritual imprint on, as well as some precious abyssal materials, had lost their spiritual connection with him. In almost a breath's time, he had completely lost his perception of these treasures. One had to know that these treasures were strategic resources that the abyss had prepared for God knows how many years. Among them were God's stones, God's blood, divine weapon materials, and so on. These were things that even invincible sages coveted. They were usually placed next to the abyssal demon tree to guard, and no life could get close to that place. But now he had lost his perception of these treasures, and the spiritual imprint on these treasures had disappeared one by one. How incredible was this? After all, this was a spiritual imprint that he had personally engraved. It was a demigod-level imprint. Even a demigod saint of the same level would not be able to remove his demigod imprint. Without hundreds or even thousands of years, it would be impossible to do so. Therefore, Ancestor of Heaven and Earth was very confident that even if it was only for a short time, with his perception of the spiritual imprint, he would be able to catch the thief even if he fled to the ends of the earth. But now, these demigod imprints had disappeared in an instant, completely erasing his spiritual connection. What kind of method did he use to do this? Damn you, Dark North, you thieves! You've done so many things behind my back just to steal my abyss treasure. No wonder you wanted to lure me away from the abyssal demonic tree. You despicable people. Thinking of this, Ancestor of Heaven and Earth was so angry that he could not restrain his anger. With a roar, a wave of anger rushed from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. With his body as the center, a series of terrifying spatial fluctuations appeared, seemingly distorting the layers of space-time, as if it had turned into a black hole, devouring everything. Ha! Hearing these words, Dark North Saint blinked his eyes. Thief? Stealing treasures? Deceiving the heavens? What nonsense is Ancestor of Heaven and Earth talking here? Although they did have a second plan this time, the problem was that they did not intend to steal the abyss treasure. After all, most of the abyss treasure was useless to the myriad heavens. But looking at Ancestor of Heaven and Earth's angry look, it did not seem to be a joke. Could it be that there was a third force sneaking into the abyss while the myriad heavens and the abyss were at war? He was a little puzzled. Who on earth was this third force? How could it hide from the myriad heavens and the abyss demons, the two super forces? This was a little too remarkable, wasn't it? Dark North, I'll remember this. The next time I see you, you'll definitely die. Ancestor of Heaven and Earth shouted angrily and waved his hand. Wait. Dark North Saint still wanted to stop it, but it was of no use. A tyrannical power of space-time instantly teleported Dark North Saint out of this alternate space. Chapter 2782. Whoosh. There was a distortion of space-time. The furious Ancestor of Heaven and Earth teleported back from the alternate dimension. He immediately returned to the vicinity of the abyssal demon tree and quickly went to the palace behind it. Bastard, which son of a bitch actually emptied my treasure house? Ancestor of Heaven and Earth came to the door of the palace. He didn't need to look at it at all. He just scanned it with his divine sense and instantly sensed the situation inside and outside the entire palace. It would have been better if he didn't sense it, but once he did, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood and fainted. It should have been a dazzling treasure house with many treasures, but now it was empty. It was even cleaner than his face. The ground could even reflect light and be used as a mirror. They didn't even leave a single thing behind. These bastards, they caused such a huge commotion just to steal my treasures. These bastards, I will definitely not let them off. The demon lord was so angry that he almost exploded. He looked at his empty treasure house and felt like his heart was bleeding. It was as if his flesh was being cut. To be honest, he didn't have any emotional fluctuations ever since he became the demon lord. He was even more shrewd than the abyss. But now he felt pain in his heart. In order to obtain so many treasures and important strategic resources, he didn't know how many demons in the abyss world he used to search day and night. It wasn't easy for him to find so many treasures. These treasures were meant to play a role at the critical moment. If he wanted to plunder the same treasures again, it would probably take billions of epochs. Some treasures, such as divine stones, divine blood, fragments of divine artifacts, and so on, were treasures that couldn't be bought even if you had money. Gone was gone, and it was impossible to find them again. After all, those were treasures formed from the corpses of gods. How could it be so easy to get them again? Now, that group of damned bastards had actually plundered his treasure house. Not even a hair was left. The treasure house was cleaner than his face. Even if a mouse entered the granary, it wouldn't be so excessive. At the sight of such a scene, he simply wished that he could slaughter all the saints of the various races in the universe. Only then would he be able to vent the anger in his heart. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the void in the distance twisted, and 6 terrifying abyssal kings walked out. They were the great elders of the monster demon palace, and also the trusted subordinates of Ancestor Jianghu. One of them was a terrifying rancor that Xia Ping recognized, Great Elder Imoluan. They seemed to have heard the summons of the Devil Lord and came out from their seclusion grounds. Demon Lord, what happened? Why did you summon us? The 6 great elders of the fiendish demon palace came to the side of Ancestor Jianghu and said respectfully to him. One had to know that even if the saints of the modern universe attacked the abyss, they would not be able to force these great elders out of their closed-door training. However, due to the Devil Lord's orders, they chose to come out of their closed-door training. This had to be a major event that affected the entire abyss world for the Demon Lord to issue such an order. Our treasury has been robbed. All the treasures were stolen by those damned bastards. Not a single one was left. Ancestor Jianghu's face was extremely gloomy, as black as charcoal. What? The treasure was stolen? Are you kidding me? The treasures in this treasury are the important strategic resources of the abyss. If it was stolen, how long would it take to make up for it? Make up for it, my ass. Every treasure is precious and rare in the world. If it was stolen, it would be impossible to make up for it. This is a loss that cannot be made up for. Damn it. Which bastard did such a wicked thing? He is too shameless. It must be those saints of the modern universe. Only those damned bastards would be so shameless. They made such a big fuss by opening the void passage between the modern universe and the abyss just to steal our treasures. These damned bastards are simply shameless to the extreme. We must cut those bastards into pieces. We must make them compensate for this loss. Hearing these words, the great elders of the fiendish demon palace had a drastic change in their expressions. How could they not know the importance of this treasury? It could be said to be one of the most important treasures in the abyss world. At this moment it was stolen. All the treasures were stolen by others. This was simply an unbearable burden for the abyss world. At this moment all of them were furious. Let's go in and see if there are any clues left behind. Time is so short. No matter how powerful that thief is, it is impossible for him not to leave some traces. If we search carefully, we might be able to find some clues. Great Elder Mo Luan said in a deep voice, calmly analyzing. Yes, let's go in and take a look. No matter how powerful that thief is, he will definitely leave some traces. The other great elders could not help but nod. They immediately walked into the treasury and carefully searched for clues. Great Elder Mo Luan even wanted to distort time and space to observe the historical images left behind. Unfortunately, the depths of time and space were blurry. He could not see anything. It was as if a tyrannical power had forcefully erased the images of time and space. Even Great Elder Mo Luan, who was a time demon, could not find any clues. That damned bastard actually stole everything from our treasury in such a short time. He did not leave any traces behind. Not only did he not leave anything behind, he even cleaned up the treasury. There is not a single speck of dust here. That damn thief is too arrogant. He stole things and still did what he did here. What does he think the abyss is? Is this his home? He comes and goes as he pleases. Does he really think he is a big shot? The group of Devil Demon Palace elders was furious. They felt that the thief was simply too arrogant. It did not matter that he stole all the treasures in such a short time, but he still had the leisure to help clean up. How arrogant was that? As long as they thought of this, they would be infuriated. That thief is not just arrogant. He is simply lawless. After stealing things, he actually dared to leave his name. At this moment, Ancestor Jianghu also noticed the words on the wall. Wu Wudi was here. His face was as black as a black hole. No one knew how angry he was at the moment. Arrogant, too arrogant. After stealing from our abyss, not only did he not run away quietly, he even dared to leave his name here. Are you afraid that we won't know who did this? That's right. You're too arrogant. A great elder of the monstrous demon palace flew into a rage. Was here? That damned bastard really thinks that the abyss is a tourist place. A great elder of the devil demon palace was so angry that he pounded the wall. Provocation. This damned bastard is provoking the abyss. He is looking down on us. A great elder of the devil demon palace was furious. Wu Wudi? Who is this damned Wu Wudi? Where did he come from? If I find him, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to wipe out his entire clan and tear him to pieces. The other great elder of the monstrous demon palace roared furiously. Sogu website. Chapter 2783. Wu Wudi, this name sounds familiar. Suddenly, an abyssal demon grand elder said, I remember this kid is a human. He has ruined our plans several times. What? As soon as he said that, Almost all the great elders of the monster demon palace recalled this name. They seemed to have heard this human name Wu Wudi in several meetings. However, they did not expect Wu Wudi's name to appear in their treasure vault. So it's that bastard. I was wondering why his name sounded so familiar. Just how many times has that bastard ruined the plans of our abyss? Now this bastard has come to steal the treasury of our abyss. This son of a bitch should be captured and torn to pieces. One of the great elders was so angry that his body trembled. Thinking of what Wu Wudi had done before, new hatred and old hatred surged in his heart. What's the background of that Wu Wudi? Why haven't we found out his true identity? What's his family? Who's his master? What's his relationship with them? Why haven't we found out? How long has it been? Did that bastard jump out of nowhere? The great elder of the monster demon palace was so angry that his face turned pale. This guy had caused so much trouble for the abyss, and it was getting worse every time. Previously, he had done it in the modern universe. They could not do anything about it. Now, this son of a bitch had come to the abyss to cause trouble. He was simply turning a blind eye to them. How arrogant was this son of a bitch? Did he think that the abyss demons were vegetarians? They could not do anything about this bastard. We have no choice. We have used many forces, but we have not been able to find this kid's true identity. It seems that this kid's true identity is a top secret among the human race. Other than the human race patriarchs, no one knows. Another great elder of the monster demon palace smiled bitterly. He was very helpless. They also wanted to find out Wu Wudi's true identity, but the human race had protected Wu Wudi so well that they could not do anything. Protected so well? Wu Wudi must be from the human race. He might be a spy trained by the human race, the kind that wreaks havoc all day long. A great elder of the monster demon palace roared, "In that case, let's annihilate the human race. Kill every human in the modern universe. I don't believe that we can't find out where Wu Wudi is." It clenched its fists tightly. It was furious. Let's do it. Let's kill those audacious invincible sages who dared to invade our abyss first. Ancestor Qingquan's eyes flashed with a cold light. He couldn't catch that little thief Wu Wudi now, so he decided to vent his anger on the invincible saints of the myriad races. Go! The great elders of the monster demon palace were filled with murderous intent. They had been suppressing their anger and were looking for someone to vent it on. At that moment, the space near the southern heaven gate twisted, and Dark North Saint's figure appeared near the southern heaven gate again. This time he was in a very sorry state and his body was covered in blood. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The undefeatable saints near the south heaven gate immediately noticed the Dark North Saint who had returned. Interesting. To be able to come back alive after facing the demon lord, this Dark North fellow is not simple. Just what kind of secret is the human race hiding? Instantly, the eyes of the undefeatable saints of the other races glinted with cold light. To be honest, they also knew what this Dark North Saint's mission was, which was to stall the demon lord. For any other undefeatable saint, this was a mission with a slim chance of survival, but this Dark North Saint actually succeeded and came back alive. This was enough to make the undefeatable saints of countless races look at Dark North Saint in a different light. At the same time, it also increased the danger level of Dark North Saint by several levels. Did you succeed? Xiaoyao Ancestral Master asked with his divine sense. Yes, I succeeded. But something strange happened in the end. Because of this, I was able to get away easily. Otherwise, I would have to pay a heavy price to get away. Dark North Saint nodded. To be honest, although the demon lord couldn't kill him in battle, he could use all kinds of methods to stall him. Moreover, after 1 hour, the undefeatable saints of the South Heaven Gate would retreat, leaving him alone in the Abyss world. In this way he probably wouldn't be able to resist the erosion of the Abyss origin power and would be sealed here forever. Therefore this was a mission with a slim chance of survival, and it wasn't easy to complete. He had relied on a lot of luck to complete it. Something strange? What is it? Xiaoyao Ancestral Master frowned. To be honest, no saint liked variables, especially when it came to a sure win plan. Variables meant failure. It seems that the demon lord's backyard is on fire, and some other saints went there to steal treasures. I don't know if any of us have this plan, or did a third force join in? Dark North Saint asked. We definitely don't have such a plan here. Just luring the demon lord away is already taking the risk of death. Why would we do something that would complicate the situation? According to what you said, a third force is involved. Is it a force from the Abyss itself? Or a force from the main universe? The question is, how did they enter the Abyss and resist the erosion of the Abyss origin power? Xiaoyao Ancestral Master was puzzled. To be honest, he felt that this matter was very important. If a mysterious third force was really plotting against them, then he had to consider it carefully. Is it possible that it's a force left from the last universe century? Dark North Saint narrowed his eyes. It's very possible. After all, they can live through the last universe century, and who knows how many forces and trump cards they have. Maybe they even have many godly artifacts. To be honest, compared with the Abyss demons, we have to be more cautious of the beings left from the last universe century. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master clenched his fists. Although the biggest enemy of all the races in the universe was the Abyss demons, he had never forgotten for 1 second the many races that had survived from the last universe century. Those races had lived through the mythological era, and each race's foundation was extremely horrifying. Rumble, at this moment, a black abyss portal appeared in the distant void, and 7 magnificent figures walked out from it. Each of them emitted an aura that could pierce through the void. The moment they appeared, heaven and earth shook. It was as if the origin of the entire abyss was boiling, and endless abyssal currents were tumbling continuously. Vaguely, there were countless wronged souls wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves, heart-rending and lung-splitting. Damn it. The Demon Lord is here. All the unrivaled saints had goosebumps as if they were facing a great enemy. They felt a huge threat. Third Gate Master. Chapter 2784. Strange. How come I feel like these Abyss Kings are a bit angry? Empyrean Ancestral Master stroked his white beard. He was good at reading people's minds and immediately sensed that the Demon Master and the other Abyss Kings were enraged and couldn't conceal the fury in the depths of their hearts. After all, these Abyss demons were all deeply submissive and cunning. They had never shown their emotions on their faces, but now they didn't hide it at all. Obviously, they were extremely angry and didn't care if others could see it or not. They are indeed very angry. Could it be that our plan was discovered by them? Xiaoyao Ancestral Master narrowed his eyes. No. If they found out, they wouldn't be angry. Instead, they would be ecstatic. Empyrean Ancestral Master shook his head. Anyway, it seems that something we don't know happened, and it made them so angry. Maybe a third force did something to Abyss. Dark North Saint guessed. Boom. At this moment, the Demon Lord took a step forward, almost not concealing the anger in the depths of his heart. He glared at the saints of the various races, especially the few saints of the human race. Good, very good. This time, my Abyss has really suffered a great loss. You actually took advantage of a moment of carelessness and sent people to infiltrate my Abyss treasury, stealing all the treasures that I have accumulated over the years, causing my Abyss to suffer a great loss. You have really done well. What? Stealing treasures? Hearing his words, the saints looked at each other in bewilderment because such a thing didn't happen in their plan. They didn't know what the Demon Master was talking about either. The human saints were the same. Human, you're still fucking playing dumb. You're quite good at it. It was done by you human saints and you're still pretending to be so smart. You're all very shrewd, aren't you? You're all award-winning actors. Seeing the Xiaoyao Ancestral Master and the other saints still pretending to be confused as if they didn't know anything, the first elder of Demon Palace was enraged. To be honest, their confused looks were too bewildering. If it weren't for the irrefutable evidence, they would have been fooled by the old ancestors of the human clan. Looking at their confused eyes, it seemed that they really didn't know anything. Was it done by a human saint? Curious, the sages of other races all focused their gazes on the Xiaoyao Ancestral Master and the other human sages. I don't know what you're talking about. Who doesn't know that you abyssal demons are all sinister and cunning? You're good at lying and you like to frame others and sow discord. You can't even believe your words. The Xiaoyao Ancestral Master stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Many sages nodded their heads. That was indeed the case. If they could believe the words of these demons from the abyss, they would rather believe that pigs could fly. Shut up, you're still playing dumb. The evidence is already conclusive, yet you're still twisting words and forcing logic. Let me ask you, did the human race send that Wu Wuti to steal from my treasury? And he was so arrogant, as if he was afraid that we wouldn't know that he was the one who did it. He even left his name, saying that Wu Wuti was here. If you want to fucking deny it, I'll see what you can say. A great elder of the monstrous demon palace cursed. He could barely control himself. What? Wu Wuti? The mouths of the Xiaoyao Ancestral Master, Emptiness Ancestral Master, Dark North Saint, and other human ancestral masters twitched. How could they not know what kind of person Wu Wuti was? Damn it. It's this troublemaker again. No matter where he goes, he haunts like a ghost and causes trouble wherever he goes. How could this guy even enter the abyss? How did he do it? Of course, it wasn't difficult to enter the abyss, but it was difficult to resist the erosion of the power of the abyss. If he couldn't stay for long. Moreover, the most infuriating thing was that this brat had taken advantage of the fact that the myriad races in the heavens were rebelling against the abyss to fish in troubled waters. He had even plundered the treasury of the abyss and made a huge fortune. This brat really dared to do anything. Of course, if he did it secretly, it wouldn't be a big deal. After all, there was no evidence. However, this kid didn't do that. He even left his name as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know. Even if he wanted to deny it, he couldn't do it since the evidence was conclusive. Dark North, what's going on? How did your disciple sneak into the abyss at such a coincidental time? Did you tell him our plan? The Xiaoyao ancestral master asked secretly. Impossible. How could I tell him such a plan? Besides, it's useless even if I told him. He can't get involved in such a thing. The corner of Dark North Saint's mouth twitched. He couldn't reveal this to Xia Ping because it was a plan between the invincible sages. It was useless for other sages to get involved. Previously, he only heard that his disciple did all kinds of ridiculous things. Of course, at that time, he didn't think it was a big deal since it was just a child's play. But now it was different. He even stole everything from the Abyss treasure vault and angered the Demon Lord and many kings of the Abyss. This was a big event that shook the entire universe. What was going on? Was this brat so terrifying after he grew up? Is it really just a coincidence? Emptiness Ancestral Master asked. I'm not sure. Maybe it's really a coincidence. Or maybe he accidentally learned of our plan from somewhere else and wanted to take the opportunity to sneak in. When we return to the main universe, we can ask that brat. Dark North Saint said speechlessly. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that his disciple could actually cause such a big trouble. Moreover, his courage was simply too fat. He dared to do such a thing under the eyes of the Demon Lord. If the Demon Lord found out, he would even lose his life. This was the saying, birds die for food and men die for wealth. Indeed. No matter if it's that brat who did it or not, it's a good thing for all the races in the universe. It's a good thing that Abyss is so angry about it. The Xiaoyao ancestral master smiled faintly. The other old ancestors also nodded. That was indeed the case. Anything that could make the enemy angry was naturally a good thing. There was no doubt about it. Human, hand over all the treasures that you stole. Otherwise, our Abyss will consign you to eternal damnation and make you die without a whole corpse. Do you understand? A great elder of the monstrous demon palace roared furiously. Get lost. The Xiaoyao ancestral master yelled angrily and loudly, if you want to punish someone, you can always find a pretext. Let's ignore the fact that it's impossible for us to do it. Even if we did, so what? You want us to spit out the things that we took? You're dreaming. Get as far away from us as you can. Do you think you can do that? Chapter 2785. Human, you're seeking death. You're seeking your own death. Hearing these words, the Abyss Kings were enraged. They couldn't bear such insults. It was these bastards who stole the treasures of their Abyss, and they should be in the wrong. Looking at this guy's expression, others who didn't know would think that the Abyss was in the wrong. He was boasting shamelessly and speaking righteously. This made them want to tear this bastard into pieces. Instantly, horrifying murderous spirits burst out from their bodies and targeted the human saints. Kill him. A first elder of the demon palace yelled angrily, wanting to attack the Xiaoyao ancestral master and the other saints. Fools. Do you think we dared to come to the Abyss without any trump cards? He did so many things just to lure all of you out and bury all of you here. The Xiaoyao ancestral master sneered and made a hand seal, seeming to activate a secret treasure on his body. A destructive wave burst out from his body and swept across tens of thousands of light years. What? The expressions of the Abyss Kings, including the demon masters, changed drastically. They could feel the destructive wave from the Xiaoyao ancestral master, which could destroy the world. Even an invincible saint couldn't resist it. It seemed that this attack could destroy the world and return it to chaos. Damn it. What does this human want? What treasure does he have? How can it have such horrifying destructive waves? An Abyss King's expression was extremely dark. It might be a secret treasure the humans got from the dark forbidden zone. It has the power to destroy the world. Maybe it's a weapon left by a god from the previous universe. An Abyss King guessed. If this guy activates such a secret treasure here, all the saints here will die. Does he want to die with us? Some Abyss Kings gritted their teeth. It's very possible. In the primeval times, many saints sacrificed themselves for a noble cause. They used themselves as bombs and detonated themselves with the other Abyss Kings, killing many elites of our Abyss. That's why we're constantly losing. Damn it. These bastards want to do it again. They want to kill all of us Abyss Kings so that we won't be able to fight another war. We can't let this human scum have his way. Retreat. Retreat immediately. Deploy our defensive formations and defend against him. We've been tricked. I didn't think that this group of bastards would have such a scheme. We definitely can't let them succeed. You want to be buried here with us? Dream on. Many abyssal kings communicated with each other through their divine senses. As if they were facing a great enemy, they instantly formed a formation, forming nodes of the formation's restrictions. A huge void barrier was formed, and it was equipped with powerful defensive restrictions. Even the self-destruction of an invincible saint would not be able to damage such a defensive formation. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, at this moment, the invincible sages that were scattered in the surroundings flashed and hid inside the southern heavenly gate in a breath's time, including the Dark North Saint. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master, the instigator of all this, ran faster than anyone else. With a yell, he looked as if he didn't fear death, but he was the first to run into the southern heavenly gate. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of the many abyss demons. Seeing this, the Abyss Kings, just you wait. You Abyss demons, don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I'll kill every single one of you. Today I have something to take care of. You're lucky today. Otherwise, all of you Abyss Kings would have been killed today. Even though he had fled into the southern heavenly gate, the Xiaoyao Ancestral Master's arrogant voice still came out. Damn it. This bitch was tricked. Hearing these words, an Abyss King's face turned green. Of course, it knew that they had been tricked. This bastard didn't want to use a secret treasure to die with them. He was just bluffing. But they couldn't see through it and were instantly fooled by this bastard. However, they didn't know that the famous and well-respected human ancestral master who had lived since the primeval times was so despicable, shameless, and capable of telling all kinds of lies. Kill this Xiaoyao Ancestral Master. Don't run if you have the guts. The Abyss Kings were infuriated. They instantly attacked and shot beams of nomological light at the southern heavenly gate, bursting out destructive power that could destroy everything. Boom, but it was too late. The southern heavenly gate instantly burst out endless nomological barriers. Layers of them stacked up, and a total of 129,600 layers appeared, blocking the southern heavenly gate. The southern heavenly gate wasn't only a spatial divine artifact but also an extremely powerful defensive divine artifact. It was said that in the previous era of the gods, the southern heavenly gate was the door to the residence of the gods and had stopped countless gods from entering. One could imagine how powerful its defense was. Bang, bang, bang. Instantly, the nomological light bombarded the nomological barriers of the southern heavenly gate. Like stones falling into the ocean, they didn't cause much of a ripple. All the attacks were completely devoured by the southern heavenly gate's attack. Rumbles in the next second, the southern heavenly gate slowly closed. All the invincible saints disappeared from the abyss world, and the powerful portal divine artifact quickly merged into the void. The temporary void passage connecting the abyss world and the main universe had also disappeared without a trace at this moment. Even if the abyssal kings wanted to chase after them, they couldn't do anything. Despicable, shameless humans, they actually tricked us. The abyss and you humans are irreconcilable. Just you wait. The abyssal kings were furious. Because this scene reminded them of the painful lessons the humans gave the abyss in the primordial era. Back then, the humans weren't as powerful as they were now. But they also brought heavy losses to the abyss, and were listed as the greatest enemy of the abyss. Now that the humans had done it again, new and old grudges surged up in their hearts. If their anger could condense into a physical substance, it was estimated that their anger could burn every human being into ashes, and countless planets in the universe would be razed to the ground. Demon Master, what do we do now? An abyssal king looked at the demon master beside him. Don't worry, this is just a small trick. No matter how they struggle, they can't escape from the suppression of the general trend. If we proceed according to the plan, the main universe will be scorched this time. The Demon Master said calmly. Yes, Demon Master. The Abyssal Kings clenched their fists, their killing intent surging. All races, enjoy the last light of your lives. At this moment, the Demon Master's gaze was deep and distant, as if he was looking at the end of the abyss. Endless abyssal demonic power rose from his body. Sogu website. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.